Already mic testing, mic testing. Okay, perfect. Let me go to my main camera. Alright, we're live, and as you guys can tell by the title and thumbnail, today I'm going to be working on text input in SDL3 using C++. That's it. I have been going over text input for the past two streams, and yesterday was a time when I actually figured out on how to actually type stuff on my window. That's it. I didn't have enough time to practice it, so today, this stream, I'm going to be practicing and working on that. So let's go to my gameplay screen. Okay, perfect. And guys, this is a new chat because today I didn't have time to actually get a new chat. That's it. Let's say something like, let's say I'm live, exclamation. Okay, let's see. Chat, listen up. Your people Vivek has returned. Your people Vivek has entered the arena again, and that means today is another day of leveling up his powers, logic, and his code. This isn't just a stream. This is a training arc, and anyone watching is witnessing a future game developer being forged line by line, one brutal bug at a time. Hi first, heading long story, I appreciate you joining this stream. That said, steel doesn't become a sword by resting, it becomes a sword by heat, pressure, and relentless strikes, and that's exactly what we're doing. Here today. Chat, hype them up, people focus, the dojo is open, now tell people, what are we learning today? Okay, actually, let me go ahead and copy this code because this is the working code from yesterday, because yesterday it took me almost the entire stream to actually get a working reference code. That's it. Let me go ahead and paste this, go with shift enter and say something like, let's say, I want to work on learning this code today, ... Okay, let's see. Good people, focusing on this code means that you're finally stopping the habit of running around like a headless chicken and actually mastering SDL3 input and rendering. Chat, get ready, we're about to drill some SDL3 fundamentals into this shells until they stick like glue. Okay people, here's what we're doing today. We're going through this code line by line, concept by concept, until you actually understand it, not just copy paste and pray. And guys, let me actually show you this code because I did write this code yesterday, but I don't think I actually showed you guys much today. Okay, so if I were to run the code, I get my first terminal here. Okay, and then I get a window as well. So here's my window. So technically what this code actually did was I could type something and it actually types my window. Let's say something like, hi, how's your day, question mark. And if I hit enter, this goes to my, my terminal. Okay, that's it. That was pretty much it for this code. I did write the reference code, but I did not study it. So this stream, I am going to be working on studying it. That said, SDL plus TDF has 4 pillars: init systems, event loop, surface, texture pipeline, rendering pipeline, and your code touches all of them. I'm going to start teaching you these 4 pillars clearly with examples, explanations, and why behind each part your stream sees you actually learning, not guessing. First, we start here. Pillar 1, initialization. You did this part mostly right, but I'm going to explain it properly so you understand. SDL underscore init, SDL underscore init underscore video. This turns on SDL's video system. Without it, no window, no renderer, no texture, nothing. TDF underscore init. This turned on the font rendering library. SDL3 removed SDL underscore TDF's old return format. Now 0 means success, not failure. Okay. Your checks are correct. If not, SDL underscore init, SDL underscore init underscore video. If the video section of my SDL was not initialized properly, I do something. If my TDF was not initialized properly, I do something as well. In SDL3, if it returns 0, it means good. So your if not TDF underscore init is correct. Good job there, people. Don't let it get to your head. Pillar 2, window plus renderer. SDL underscore create window and renderer function. Okay, these are the basic parts that I actually know. This function creates a window, a renderer, both at once. This is the simplest setup you can possibly use. Your code does it correctly, except you used SDL underscore window underscore resize, but SDL3 wants. Okay, so title, width and height, SDL's is window resizable. Okay, didn't I not use a title and width and height type stuff? You got that right, no issues. Proceed people. Pillar 3, text input handling. Okay, this is the newer part. Text input in SDL3 works like this. You start text input, SDL underscore start text input, SDL fires. So SDL underscore event underscore text underscore input when user types letters. Okay, so SDL fires when user types letters. SDL fires for special keys backspace enter errors using the SDL underscore event underscore key underscore down. Your event handling is correct, appending text to input, handling backspace, handling enter. This means you truly grasp the text input flow. Nice, don't get cocky. Pillar 4, rendering text SDL3's way. Here's the flow, and guys, am I audible actually? Okay, there we go, because for some reason I thought that I didn't like unmute my mic. That's it, convert text surface, texture, get texture size, compute rect, render, destroy texture after drawing. Okay, your code does do this, but you made one big mistake. You created two textures for no reason. Did I create two textures? SDL says texture, so I do that. Okay, and then if not texture, I destroy. People, what were you thinking? You created a texture, destroyed it, then created it again. Oh, I see. Okay, so I created a texture here, destroyed it, and created it again. That's like cooking a pizza, throwing in trash, then cooking the exact same pizza again. Why? This is the kind of nonsense that makes Sensei want to shake you by your shoulders in front of Chad. Okay, you only need SDL underscore texture. Okay, and then SDL underscore create texture from surface. So I create my texture from surface, then I destroy it. Okay, so I'll actually change that. And that's pretty much it for this code. Okay, so let's go all the way up here. Apparently, I don't actually need this part here, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that part. Go ahead and delete that as well. And there we go. Okay, actually, thinking about it, I did create this part twice. So I might not need... Okay, I need my SDL's textures, this thing, okay? And I destroy it once, so I destroy my texture once. There we go. Okay, and why did I create texture from surface twice? That was actually kind of stupid. There we go. Okay, this should actually work now. If I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. Okay, please block this guy. I'm getting irritated. Okay, what do you build? Honestly, I'm actually working on building this. Like last stream, I did finally figure out on how to actually get the reference code for this. This technically says something like, okay, let's go with something like hello. Hold up, guys. Wait, let me actually delete this. What if I go with like a bunch of shift enters? Do I actually need the this extra texture here? If I were to go with Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. Okay, so let me get my first window here. Let's get my second window here. Okay, let's type something like hello. Okay, so basically this is the kind of stuff that I was trying to do. Like type something, it like actually types on a window. So like I could type almost anything here. Hit enter, then that goes all the way to my terminal here. Okay, so let's go ahead and cancel it. So this part was important. So I gotta create my texture. Then I gotta delete my texture as well. Guys, there we go. Okay, so I gotta create my texture. And then I gotta check if my texture was created. So input texture is SDL texture. I destroy my texture if it was created. Okay, in that case, would I not need this part? Alright guys, now if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. So I get my first window here, let me get my second window there. Okay, can I type something in my window? Okay, I cannot, so we need both the if statement. I mean, we need both the destroys. So let me go ahead and add this here. Okay, actually, let me go ahead and go with something like Control C, copy that, get synthase/GP here, and guys, I will be I will like start writing this code right now to actually get a grasp of how it works. That's it. Let me paste it, go with Shift Enter, and say something like Sensei, creating those two textures and destroying them were actually important. Because I tried to remove one of them and my text was not displaying on my window. Okay, let's see. Okay, Sensei, good, you're live. Okay, you're live, you're coding, you're thinking. Now listen people, you just discovered a very real SDL3 quirk and you did it through experimentation, guys. I don't think it was experimentation. Okay, let me break this down clean, calm, mortal ways. I go back to yelling. Okay, why the double create/destroy looks necessary? Here's the trick you stumble into. TDF underscore render text underscore blender and SDL3 returns the SDL surface. Okay, then you convert it to a texture. I did do that. but you destroy it immediately right after creating it. Then you recreate it. The only reason your text is still appearing is because SDL was catching the glyph surface, is that how you pronounce it? Glyph surface internally. So the second create texture from surface succeeded, but you remove the first one. The state of the the cached glyph sometimes isn't ready. Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, honestly, that said, I do want to actually try writing this code, but I want to actually write it, whatchamacallit, using a reference because I did not actually work on this code much. So let's scroll all the way up here, get sensei/ChatGPT the other window, because guys, I am going to be, whatchamacallit, copying this code and writing it a few times to actually get a grasp of on how things work here. Okay, that's it. Let's scroll all the way up here. Okay, there we go. Maybe just shrink this a bit more. Okay, there we go. That said, let me firstly start off by deleting everything. And firstly, I'm going to be writing the code that I actually do know. The only thing that I am going to be looking the reference for is the actual text version. Okay, that's it. Firstly, let me start off by including a prop anchor braces. Let's say I want to include IO stream. And then since I am going to be using SDL3, I'm going to go ahead and include SDL3 slash SDL.h. So I'm going to include SDL3 and SDL's as header files. And then once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and include my TDF. I forgot the name, so it's SDL3 underscore TDF slash SDL underscore TDF.h. Okay, so I'm going to go with SDL3 underscore TDF slash SDL underscore TDF.h. I'm assuming this is SDL3's TDF and SDL's TDF's header files. Once I'm done with that, I'm pretty sure I gotta include string as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and include string because I will be using C string, which is like constant strings. Okay, now once I'm done with that, let's go ahead and create a main function. So I'm gonna go with something like integer main added pair of parentheses. Now my main function does require two parameters. The first parameter is going to be an integer of argc. The second parameter is going to be a character, which is going to be a pointer towards an array of argv. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and add a pair of curly braces. Now, inside my main function, I'm going to be using an if statement to initialize my SDL and also check if my SDL was not initialized properly. So I'm going to go with something like if not SDL underscore init, SDL underscore init underscore videos. So if the video section of my SDL was not initialized properly, I'm going to do something. I'm going to be displaying an error text. So I'm going to go with a standard C error with an insertion operator that says something like SDL underscore init error. Okay, so I get a SDL underscore init error, then I go with another insertion operator and use the function that actually gets me an error. So I could go ahead and use the SDL underscore get error function. Okay, then I go with another insertion operator and use a standard end line to go in a new line, ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I return 1. Okay, that's pretty much it for initializing my SDL. Next up, I'm going to initialize TDF as well. I honestly forgot the full form of TDF. I think it's true texture format. That said, I'm going to go with something like if, a pair of parentheses, if not, let's say something like SDL underscore TDF. Actually, was it TDF underscore init? I think it was TDF underscore init. Okay, so if not TDF underscore init, if my TDF was not initialized properly, then I do something. I go with a pair of curly braces and I'm going to give myself a standard C error with an insertion operator that says something like TDF underscore init error. Okay, perfect. Then I go in a new line, add another insertion operator and use the function that actually gets me an error. So I could go ahead and use the SDL underscore guys, there we go. SDL underscore the get error function. This function actually gets me an error. Then I'm going to go with another insertion operator and add a standard end line, ending with a semicolon. Now, once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and return 1 saying something, something is wrong in this block of code. So go check it out. Okay, once I'm done with initializing my true texture format slash TDS, my TDF as well, I'm going to go ahead and add a comment that says something like create window and a renderer. And honestly, just so these feel kind of clear, I might actually add a comment here that says something like initialize SDL. So I initialize my SDL here, and then I'm going to add a comment here as well that says something like, there we go, initialize TDF. Okay, I initialized my TDF there, and guys, the comments aren't actually necessary. I just added because it's like a good practice. Okay, that's it. Now, maybe I don't add a space here. Might look much better without a space. There we go. Okay, now for creating my window and renderer both at the same time, I might need two local variables. The first local variable is going to be a pointer towards my SDL underscore windows structure. I'm going to be calling it window. I'm going to be setting that equal to null PDR, which is a placeholder for pointers. And then I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore renderer. I'm going to be creating a pointer towards the structure for my renderer as well. My pointer is going to be called renderer, and I'll set it to be equal to null PDR as well. Now, once I'm done creating my two pointers slash local variables that I'm going to be needing, I'm going to use the function that actually does create both my window and my renderer at the same time. So I'm going to use the SDL underscore create window and renderer function. My create window and renderer function does require a few parameters. The first parameter is going to be a title slash a caption for my window. I could go with something like SDL3 window created. Okay, then I'm gonna add a comma. And actually, before I do create my window and renderer, I might add another comment that says something like game variables. These are going to be the basic game variables that I'm going to be needing. For example, the width and height from my window. So I'm going to go with something like a constant integer of something like width. This is going to be my windows' width. I'm going to set that equal to 1000. And then a constant integer for height. This is going to be my windows' height. I'm going to set that equal to 800, ending with a semicolon. Now, the second and the third parameter for my SDL underscore create window and renderers function is going to be my width variable and my height variable. Okay, then I go with a comma. Okay, and then now my fourth parameter is going to be a flag for my window. If you guys don't want to add a flag, you guys could go with 0, but I do want to add a flag that makes my window resizable. So I'm going to go ahead and use the SDL underscore window underscore resizable flag. There we go. And once I'm done with that, the fifth parameter is going to be, let's see, the memory address of my window, and the sixth parameter is going to be the memory address of my renderer. So I'm going to go with something like the address of operator window, and then I'm going to go with something like a address of operator for my renderer. Now, once I'm done with this, I'm going to go ahead and end my function with a semicolon. And now that I'm done creating my window and my renderer, apparently in C++ we do gotta give ourselves an error and check if the function was wrong. So let's do that. I'm going to go with something like if statement to check if my window was not created properly or my renderer was not created properly. Alright guys, here we go. Okay, and if they were not created properly, I'm going to go ahead and do something. Firstly, I'm going to give myself an error text. So I'm going to go with a standard C error with an insertion operator. Let's say something like SDL underscore create a window. Okay, create window. And what up guys, my hands are kind of frozen because it is kind of cold here. Okay, and renderer. Okay, what up guys, there we go. And renderer error. Okay guys, that took me way too long to write. Okay, hiding one shot, I appreciate you joining the stream. And once I'm done with this, I'm going to go ahead and add another insertion operator and use the function that actually gets me an error. So I'm going to use the SDL underscore get error function. This function actually gets me an error. Then I'm going to go with another insertion operator and go with standard end line ending with a semicolon. Now, if either my window or my renderer was not created properly, I do want to exit my SDL. So I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore quit with a row of parentheses ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I'm going to return 1. Okay, and that's pretty much it for creating both my window and my renderer. Once I'm done with that, let's see. Now I gotta go ahead and create a font. So let's go ahead and add a comment that says something like create fonts. Okay, now to create my fonts, there we go. Alright guys, I don't know, my fingers are pretty frozen today. There we go. Okay, now to create my fonts, firstly, I'm gonna be using the TDF True Texture Fonts' let's say font structure. Okay, which is going to be a pointer to my fonts variable that is going to be equal to TDF underscore open font. And guys, this is going to be the part that I'm actually going to be looking at the reference for, because like this part is kind of tough. Okay, my friend, I have a question. Honestly, what question? Hey, have you ever tried Godot? Honestly, I haven't actually tried Godot, but I have like heard of it. I might actually try it in the future someday. Okay, so I gotta use the TDF underscore open fonts function. This function apparently opens my font, or like actually lets me access my font. Okay, so I'll go with something like open font. And guys, it's so hard to type because my fingers are kind of frozen. Okay, why do you talk like that? Guys, I get that actually so much. I don't know myself. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna go with the row of curly braces now. My open fonts function does require two parameters, a file and a font size and floating point number. So my file is going to be something like, I forgot my file's name. Alright guys, if I go with Control Alt L, I get my solution explorer. Here if I open my file in window, okay, I can see what file it is. So it's fonts, so I gotta go to fonts and then open sans italic.tdf. I might just copy this. Okay, and then I'm gonna exit my solution explorer. What would you say is the best way to learn code? Honestly, the best way I'd say to learn code is like actually writing the code, because like when you write something you learn it better, and explaining the code makes it much easier as well, because like if you can explain something, you do know that stuff. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna go with something like fonts. Guys, I actually forgot. Was it uppercase font? Like was it capitalized font? What up guys? Give me a sec to... Okay, I'm gonna open it back in Solution Explorer. Okay, it is uppercase font. I want to change the name to lowercase font because I won't always remember it being capitalized. There we go, so it's fonts. Okay, and then let's go ahead and cancel that now. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna keep that to be font slash I'm gonna paste my fonts' name. So it was something like open sans italic. Okay, .tdf. I hope this is the correct font's name, guys. I'm so bad with memorizing this. Hi, Python is better. Honestly, yeah, Python is kind of fun and everything when writing, but personally, I feel like Python is fun, but it gets boring because it is like pretty easy. Okay, that's the next up. I gotta go with a size. So maybe I go with something like 32.0 floating point. Okay, is that gonna be too big? I think it's going to be pretty good. Now, once I'm done creating my font, I gotta go ahead and check if my font was not created properly and like my font's file path was wrong. To do that, I could go with something like a if statement. I'm gonna go with something like if not font. If my font was not created properly, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna add a pair of curly braces and then display myself an error text. So I'm gonna go with a standard C error with an insertion operator. Let's say something like font. Let's say something like font load error. So I'm gonna go with something like font couldn't load. There was an error loading my font. And then I'm gonna go with another insertion operator and use the function that actually gets me an error. So I'm gonna go with something like SDL underscore the get error function. Guys, my fingers are way too frozen today. Okay, so I'm gonna go with something like SDL underscore get error with a pair of parentheses. And then I go with another insertion operator of a standard headline ending with a semicolon. And then I lastly return one saying something went wrong in this block of code. Okay, of course Python is better. I mean, I would say like Python is pretty good, but then Python is like pretty slow because Python is like the brain. C++ on the other hand is like faster when you actually make programs and everything. Okay, font loading error is better. Actually, I could try that. Font loading error. So I could go with something like font loading error. Okay, because guys, I'm like really bad at like making names up. That's it. Once I'm done with that, I'm gonna go ahead and create my main loop now. So I'm gonna go here, add a comment that says something like main loop. Now my main loop is gonna be having a few, let's say variables. The first variable is gonna be a boolean variable of is running, which is gonna be set to something like true initially, ending with a semicolon. Okay, so making a response bot or what? Honestly, I do want to eventually make like a chatbot using what I'm doing right now, because I do want to make like a game where I can actually talk to my NPCs in my game. That said, I think this is like the first step to actually understand how to like master text and fonts on the screen type stuff, if that makes any sense. Okay, that's it. After my is running, I might need an event variable as well, because my user is going to be typing events and everything. Okay, thank you. You're the only one that sees us. Honestly, noobs use Python, guys. I think I use Python. It was kind of fun, but then it gets like really boring because like I feel the language is like really good, and like many many big companies use Python as well. Although guys, it is kind of easy, so that's what's like a no-go for me. I do want to actually start assembly soon. Maybe after I program for like 258 CVs. That said, next up, I'm going to be creating a standard string called input text. This is going to be the text that my user actually enters. I'm going to be setting it to be an empty string ending with a semicolon. Now, once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and add a while loop. So let's go with something like while, a pair of parentheses. Let's say something like while is running, while my program is running, or while my is running is set to true. I'm going to go ahead and do something. I'm going to add a comment that says something like events loop. Event loop is basically going to be a while loop inside of a while loop or a nested while loop. That said, my event loop is going to be requiring a parameter of the SDL underscore poll events function. My SDL underscore poll events function does require a parameter, which is going to be the memory address of my event variable. Now, technically what the SDL underscore poll events function does is it like looks for all the events that I'm looking for inside of my while loop. If any of those events is met, it does what I tell it to do. Okay, I have made in Python a whole organization. Ooh, that actually sounds kind of cool. Why assembly? Honestly, because it is kind of hard. I feel like I like doing stuff that is kind of hard and that makes my brain actually, whatchamacallit, want to try to cry. That's the next step. I'm going to check something like if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore quit. So if my event type is quit, I do want to exit my window. I'm going to do something. I'm going to go ahead and set my is running boolean variable to be equal to false, ending with a semicolon. So if this event is wet, if my user did click the top right X button to exit my window, my entire SDL exits. Okay, hey, do you do AI automations as well? Honestly, I haven't like started that yet, but that is kind of fun. That is eventually like what I want to actually do, like work with AIs and all that stuff. Okay, organization like a company. Could you run it? Honestly, it's not done yet. Leave assembly alone. Okay, here, your communication skills are amazing. Honestly, I appreciate you here. That actually means the world to me, guys. Okay, now once I'm done with that, let's see. So, after I'm done adding one if statements, I'm gonna add my second if statement. This time, I'm gonna check if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore text underscore input. What this event type actually does is it like checks if I type something in my keyboard. If I do type something in my keyboard, it's gonna actually register that, but I do want to save that somewhere. So I could go ahead and do something like okay, I gotta append my text input with something. So I could do something like my input text. I'm gonna go with something like my input text is standard string. I'm gonna go ahead and increase that by my event.text.text. Basically, what the event.text.text does, it like checks the text or the specific thing that I'm writing, and it's gonna be adding that in this string. Okay, AI automation is very easy with N8N. Look at it, please search it on Google, N8N. Honestly, I do want to actually look into that. I have something I'm working on here in Chernodo. Is that how you pronounce it? Canada. Would you love to connect? I would love to connect with you. Honestly, yeah, that does sound kind of cool. If you guys do want to actually connect with me, I don't like give my phone numbers or anything. Although I do like having a Discord server. I do like talk to you guys there. Okay, hey, what are you making? Honestly, I'm making like a program where I can actually type stuff in my keyboard that's going to be typed on my window, if that makes any sense. Next up, for my third event type, I'm going to be checking if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore key underscore down. What this event type actually does is it like checks key underscore down. Guys, the reason I can't type quick right now is because my fingers are kind of frozen because it is like winding here really bad. Okay, that's it. What the SDL underscore event underscore key underscore down function does is it like checks if any of my keyboard buttons are currently being pushed down, which means I'm typing those right now. Okay, could you please search it now on the live? Honestly, I could like search it off. I mean, once I'm done with the stream, because like this stream is meant for just my event types. Like it's like a specific stream. I respect anyone who uses SDL. I ran into SDL, felt afraid of C, ran into JavaScript with WebGL, realized it is too annoying and decided on Lua with Lover. Honestly, yeah, actually Lua is kind of fun. I did use Lua very little back when I used to like play Roblox and everything, but I feel like I did like quit it back then because I enjoyed modeling a bit more than programming. Okay, hacker. Okay, that's it. Now once I'm done with this, I'm gonna add a few event checks. So after I'm done with my key down, I'm gonna add, okay, I want to use switches here. So before I do use a switch, I'm gonna go ahead and use the SDL underscore key codes structure, which is going to be having a key local variable representing it. That is going to be equal to my event.key.key. Okay, ending with a semicolon. What my event.key.key actually means, it like checks the exact key that I'm currently pushing down. Then I go with something like switch with a pair of parentheses. Now I'm gonna add for my switch, I'm gonna add the parameter as my key, and then I'll go with the pair of curly braces. Now inside my switch, I'm gonna check something. I'm going to check if my SDL's key is backspace. So if my case is backspace, if my user did click backspace to like delete something, then I'm going to go ahead and do something. I'm gonna add a if statement to check if there's at least something written on my window. So I'm gonna go with something like, if not my let's say input text. So if my input text dot empty. So if my input text is not empty, there's currently something written on my window, then I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna go ahead and use the input text dot the pop underscore back function. Excuse me guys, ending with a semicolon. What this does is it like deletes the text every time I click whatchamacallit, the backspace, and then I'm gonna go ahead and break, ending with a semicolon. Okay, hey, my name is Waylo. Can you please talk to me about N8, and I want from you please to search it on Google right now. Honestly, I might search it off stream and then like work on it some other stream. That's it, you're smart guys. I think I'm the complete opposite of it. Okay, how many people here know Bulldozer? Honestly, I haven't like heard of that. That's it, it does sound kind of cool. Okay, that's it. Now, once I'm done with my first case, I'm gonna go ahead and add another case. Now, my second case is gonna be looking for, let's say, it's gonna look if my SDL's key is returned. Basically, what the return means, there we go. Basically, what return means is it like, it's the enter that I click on my keyboard. So if I click enter, I want to do something. I want to go ahead and, let's see, maybe I want to display my text on my screen. Let me think how do I display it real quick. Okay, I could go with something like a standard console output with an insertion operator that is going to be saying something like you. Okay, I'm just going to be something like you. Okay, so you type this. I could go with something like player type this as well, but I think you sounds much better. And then I'm going to go with another insertion operator of a standard end line, ending with a semicolon, and then I break, ending with a semicolon as well. Okay, here's the thing. Before I do actually break, I want to do something. Okay, so I'm gonna go with a standard insertion operator for like you. I'm gonna go with another insertion operator. Okay, let's go with something like a standard end line, ending with a semicolon. Then I break after I'm done breaking. Do I want to do something after I'm done breaking or like before I'm done breaking? Okay, because I remember I had to do something like, let's see, maybe I go with something like my input text. I'm gonna go with input text. Okay, what up guys, I can't type because my fingers are kind of frozen. Okay, let's go with something like input text dot clear. There we go. I was trying to recall the function name. What this basically means is, once I'm done actually sending my text on my window, I don't want my text to be there anymore in my memory or like stored in my variable here, in my input text variable, so I clear it back to an empty space. Okay, that's pretty much it. Okay, outside of the if, I think the break can be outside of the switch. Honestly, for like, outside of the if statement. Guys, how do you guys actually pay attention on that stuff? I actually should pay more attention myself. There we go. Okay, that actually did make sense, because like if we didn't have the break outside of the if statement, the condition would only fire if my input text is empty. Okay, that's it. That's actually pretty much it for my event loops. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and exit outside of my event loop and do something. So, outside of my event loop, firstly, I'm gonna add a comment that says something like fill screen. I wanna go ahead and fill my screen with a color. Let's say I wanna fill my screen with cyan color. Okay, I'm not a bot. I know very well SDL, C, assembly, Python, Java, etc. So I want from you to ask me anything if you don't understand. Honestly, I could actually try that out. The alpha actually means a word to me, wall. Okay, can you please explain how the equal to and equal to equal to and equal to equal to equal to work, and also the comparison operators work with words? Honestly, technically what the equal to basically means, we use one equal to assign something to something. So my key variable represents my event.key.key. But equal to is to check if one thing is equal to some other thing, if that made any sense. Although I have not heard of triple equal to, I don't think that something like 3 equal to's even exists. Okay, yeah, I actually don't think it actually exists. Okay, that's that. You have a very good accent. Honestly, I appreciate your zip grab, guys. I get that very rarely. Okay, equal to sets a variable, equals to checks a variable. That actually does make sense. Okay, hi brother, hi Sudsei. Hi Ding Wishes, I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, that's it. Now once I'm done with this, let's see. So, I gotta go ahead and exit outside of my while loop now, and then I gotta apparently create a color. So I gotta go ahead and draw a color, then I gotta clear my renderer with that color. So for my fill screen, I'm gonna go ahead and use the SDL underscore set render. So I'm setting my renderer to draw a color. We basically use this function to actually give our renderer a color. Our renderer is like a paintbrush that like draws slash colors when we tell it to draw slash color. Equal to equal to equal to is only on JavaScript. Oh, I see. I actually never knew that something like that existed. Okay. How are you doing, KB Cox? I appreciate you joining the stream. It's actually been a while. Okay, I'm a professional programmer. That actually sounds kind of cool. What language are you using? Honestly, I am using C++. That said, my set render draw color function parameter function does require a few parameters. The first is going to be my render as a parameter. The second, third, and fourth is going to be an RGB value. I'm going to go with 0, 248, 255, which is the RGB for cyan. And then lastly, I'm going to be requiring a opacity slash a alpha for my, for my color. I'm going to go with 255, which in this case is not transparent at all. Okay, he's using SDL3. Okay, double equal to in JavaScript is annoying. Always use triple equal to in JavaScript. Double equals converts type. I actually didn't know that. Oh, my name is Vivek and I'm actually Vivek. Is that how you pronounce it? And I'm in pursuing CS2. That actually sounds kind of cool. Okay, that's it. Once I'm done setting a color to my renderer, I'm going to be using a function that actually fills my screen with the color. So I could go ahead and use the SDL underscore render clear function. So I'm saying my renderer to clear my screen with the current color that it has. This does require parameter of my renderer ending with a semicolon. Okay, you have to make strict type check-in. C and C++ like Python is keywords. Go ahead and make it. You have to make strict type checking. Honestly, I think I did like have type checkings. Actually, is type checking like checking for errors, like if one of our functions did not work properly? Okay, which company are you currently working on? Okay, that's it. Now, once I'm done filling my screen, I'm gonna go ahead and create a few basic variables. I wonder if this should go under my graphics. I think it should. So I'm gonna add a graphics as comment. Now, under my graphics, I'm gonna go ahead and use the SDL underscore colors as structure. This structure is gonna be having a local variable representing it, which is gonna be equal to a pair of curly braces. Now, I want my color to be black, so I could go with something like 0, 0, 0, 255. So black, not transparent at all, ending with a semicolon. Wait, honestly, is black like 255? I think it is 255. I think 000 is white. So I might change everything to be 255, 255, and 255. There we go. Okay, and I forgot the next function. I might have to look at the reference for the next function. Okay, I gotta create a surface right now. So I'm gonna be using the SDL underscore, was it the surface? Guys, I forgot the function name. Okay, so it is SDL underscore surface. I'm gonna use the SDL underscore surface as structure, which, okay, did I spell it wrong? I think the surface should be capitalized. There we go. There we go. Okay, so I use the SDL underscore surface as structure, which is going to be having a pointer of my surface, okay, which is going to be equal to my TDF true texture font underscore the render text blender function. Okay, apparently this function actually, did I spell blender correct? It's blended. There we go. Apparently this function, it blends my text on my screen, okay, but this does require a few parameters. First is going to be my TDF font that I did create up there. Second is going to be a constant character. Third is going to be a length of my of my size, and then the fourth is going to be a color. So firstly, the font is going to be my SDL underscore, my TDF underscore font structure. So I'm going to go ahead and use my font here, and then a comma. Second parameter is going to be a constant character. In this case, it's going to be my input text. Although my input text is just a string, so I could go ahead and add the colon C string. Was it called C string? I actually forgot. What up, guys? I forgot how do you add the C string. Okay, so it's not double colon, it's dot C underscore string. So dot C string, so str. And then I go with the pair of parentheses. This converts my input text as regular string to be a constant string. I'm assuming the C string is constant string. There we go, it is a constant string. Then I'm going to go with a comma. My Third parameter is going to be a size, which is going to be the size of my text. I'm going to be setting that to be equal to 0, ending with a semicolon. Lastly, a color. My color is going to be my color parameter, and then I end my entire function with a semicolon. Alright guys, that was kind of hard. Okay, what about making APKs? Honestly, I haven't like tried that. Okay, VLA.LO.INC is yes, it's very good for making AIs. I see. Guys, is C++ good for AIs like machine learning? Okay, deep learning. Can it be used for app development, iOS and Android? Okay, question, does C++ use the getter, than and less than? So if, please explain. To use then comparing with the words. Okay guys, so basically there's like greater than and less than. We do like use that to check if something is less than or greater than equal to something. I did add that when I had my gravity checks. Maybe next stream or the stream after that, I might actually like work on more game logic where I actually add gravity, including a text chat box type stuff. That said, is C++ good for AI slash machine learning? I would recommend Python for like AI slash machine learning because Python is the best language for like AI machine learning, but C++ does have the speed. Python is like a bit slow, C++ is faster, but it takes a lot more programming in C++ compared to Python. Okay, no, but Python is only used for machine learning. That actually does make sense. Okay, what will you do after completing 100 days of C++ series? Then I'm actually going to move on ahead with my program for 258 series because like my C++ for 100 series was like indented inside of my programming for 258 series. If that makes any sense. Okay, 3 comments with 0 XP. Okay, that said, Python King. Guys, that does actually make sense. Python is kind of fun. Okay, that's said. Now, once I'm done creating my graphs, my color graphics here, and I created a surface as well, what's the next thing that I have to do? Okay, let's see. I gotta check if my surface was created properly. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and if statement, guys. This is the complex part and the newer stuff that I actually learned last stream. Okay, yes, C++ is supreme. Go whatever, we can use it to make everything. That does make sense. I did like watch a video where like someone said that you can use C++ for almost anything you think is like really flexible, but sometimes it takes like more programming and all that stuff. Yeah, but it's hard to deploy it using APKs, needs servers, and that's just too much for beginners. That actually does make sense. What are you making? Honestly, technically, I'm making something like a chat bot. So I type something, it types on my window, then later on, I will like implement it to be where I can actually communicate with my AIs, but I feel actually with my NPCs in my game, but that might be a bit more complex, guys. Okay, long story underscore codes use Flutter, then with Google use APIs. I see. Okay, that said, now I'm gonna check if my surface was created properly. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna go ahead and create a texture. So I'm gonna go with something like SDL underscore texture. Okay, then I'm gonna go with something like a pointer for my texture. So I'm gonna go with something like texture, okay, which is gonna be equal to SDL underscore create texture from surface. This is a new function name. So SDL underscore create texture. Okay, from surface, I'm gonna go with something like the from surface function. Again, guys, the reason I am like stuttering when talking and like can't type properly, it is because my mouth and what up, guys? There we go. It is because my mouth and fingers both are kind of frozen today. That said, my create texture from surface function does require 2 parameters. The first is gonna be my render parameter. The second is gonna be my surface parameter. Okay, and then I go ahead and end my entire function with a semicolon. Okay, hi, howdy, Dynamite. I appreciate you joining the stream. Our Python libraries. Hi there, howdy, Wowwick, as I pronounce your name. I appreciate you joining the stream as well. Okay, now once I'm done creating my texture, let's see, what else should I do? Actually, C and C++ hasn't much flexible library and framework. For that reason, developers avoid using it in machine learning / AI. That actually does make sense. I would also recommend using Python for AI because I might actually go over Python's AI / machine learning in like a future stream. I'm already using React Native for it, but it needs me to learn JavaScript too. That actually sounds kind of cool. I do want to go over JavaScript actually. Okay, that said, once I do create my texture from my surface, inside my if statement, I'm going to do something. I'm going to be creating a direction rect. So let's use the SDL underscore frexes function. There we go. okay, which is going to be having something like a TST Rex's local variable, which is going to be equal to a pair of curly braces. And guys, DST rect is technically like a direction rect. Okay, bro, try Gemini. It can code and do real-time programming, running, grammar mistakes. Hey, so math karna. Honestly, I think yeah, it was pretty understandable. Okay, that said, yeah, I do want to try. I could like try Gemini as well. That's the reason I do use ChatGPT is because I have been using ChatGPT for like almost everything, like learning in general, including my college stuff, because I feel it is a pretty good tutor. So guys, I feel like a deep connection. Okay, that said, okay, I need to learn SDL, guys. Relax. Oh, it's not found on Google. I see. Okay, that said, let me not get distracted. So my SDL underscore frx's function does require a few parameters. The first parameter is, let's see, x-axis and a y-axis. Let's say my x-axis is going to be something like 50, y-axis is going to be 50 as well. My width is going to be my textures is width. Okay, here's the thing. This is where I think I made some mistake last time. So I gotta go ahead and get my textures as width and my textures as height. To do that, I could go ahead and let's say create a SDL underscore the get texture size function. Okay, this gets my textures as size. It does require a few parameters. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and create a floating point parameter for my textures as width and my textures as height, ending with a semicolon. Now I fill in those parameters. The first is going to be my texture, which is my texture variable. The second is going to be the memory address of my textures as width. Okay, and the third parameter is going to be the memory address of my textures as height, ending with a semicolon. Okay, he was talking to me. Okay, bro gets distracted even with the slightest chat movement. Guys, I should actually not read the chats. Guys, I'm gonna try not reading the chats now. Okay, that said, next up, my next I think I shouldn't just go with 50-50. Instead, I might actually delete this part real quick. Okay, what up guys, let's go with something like that. Delete this, let's end this with a semicolon. Then I'm gonna go with something like DST rect dot x-axis is going to be equal to something like 100, ending with a semicolon. DST rect dot y-axis is going to be equal to something like 100, ending with a semicolon. Then I'm going to go with something like DST rect dot width, which is going to be equal to my textures as width, ending with a semicolon. And lastly, my DST rect dot height is going to be equal to my textures as height, ending with a semicolon. Okay, now, is there something that I gotta change here? Like, change my multiplied with a scale or something? I think my scale is actually set. So, I go with my structure and then I create a DST rect. Then I gotta render my texture on my screen. So, I could go ahead and use the SDL underscore render. So, I'm saying my render to, render a texture on my screen. This function does require a bunch of parameters. The first parameter is gonna be my renderer. The second parameter is going to be my texture, which is going to be my texture local variable. The third parameter is going to be a source rect. I honestly don't have a source rect, so I'm going to be setting that to be null PDR, which is a placeholder for pointers. Lastly, the fourth parameter is going to be the memory address of my DST rect. And then I end my entire function with a semicolon. Okay, and that's pretty much it for this. So, under my graphics, I create a SDL underscore color, and then I create a surface using the SDL underscore surfaces structure. Then I use the TDF underscore render text underscore blended. So I blend my text on my on my surface. Then I check if my surface was created properly. I go with SDL underscore texture. Okay, so I create a texture and then I use the SDL underscore create texture from surfaces function. Okay, then I go with something like a floating point for textures as width and height. I get the textures as size. Okay, and then I create a direction of my rectangle, which is technically DST rect. Then I use the function that actually renders my texture on my screen. So my text in this case is my texture. Once I'm done with that, I go ahead and I present my render on my screen. Okay, is that like pretty much it for this? Does that like ensure? So I go ahead and exit outside of my if statement. I'm gonna go ahead and add a comment that says something like present. Now, the reason I do actually present my render, which I can present it by typing the SDL underscore render present function, I say my renderer to present itself on the screen. The reason I do add this is because if we don't present our renderer on our screen, they are just going to be seeing like a black and white screen. That's it. Once I'm done with that, it's pretty much it. I'll go ahead and add a comment that says cleanup. This is after my if statement. Now, for my cleanup, I'm going to firstly destroy my window. So I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore destroy window with a pair of parentheses. That does require a window parameter. What up, guys? Destroy. I should work on my typos when I type destroy. And then I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore destroy renderer. I'm going to be destroying my renderer as well. That does require a parameter of my renderer ending with a semicolon. Then I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore quit to exit my SDL. And lastly, return 0 saying everything went smoothly here. Okay, they're for free though. Alright guys, I think this is pretty much it for the code. Now, if I did control us to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. The moment of truth, guys, does it actually work? I get my first window popped up here. Okay, font loading error. Couldn't open font italic. The system cannot find that specified. Okay, guys, I knew it. I think I had a typo when I was like actually loading my font. So I could go with Control Alt L. Okay, this is my solution explorer. I can open my file here, and then I go to fonts. So it's Open Sans. Oh, so it's Open Sans with a hyphen italic. There we go, guys. I just gotta add something like a hyphen italic. There we go. And now if I did Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. I get my first window here. Okay, and I get my second window here. Now, let's see if it works. So, I'm gonna actually get it somewhere here so you guys can actually see it. Let's go ahead and type something to... Okay, my typing actually doesn't work here. I knew that there was something messed up here. Hold up, guys. Let me actually see where I actually messed up. So let's go all the way up here. Okay, so from my game variables, I firstly go ahead and initialize my SDL. So I initialized my SDL. Then I initialized my TDF as well. And then I went with some game variables that I created my window and my renderer that I did create here. Okay, and then I loaded my font. I could change the comment to say something like load. Okay, so I loaded my font going with the TDF underscore font. So I use the open fonts function that requires a parameter of my font slash open sans italic dot TDF. The size is 32. I could change it to 24. Okay, and then I go with something like if not font. I did that as well if my font was not created properly. How you memorize all the syntax? Honestly, I do memorize it by like typing it a lot, because like when I first start something, I like look at the reference code and I type it first. So like I be copying the code and typing, but eventually the more I type with my fingers, I actually do get used to the typing, and I do understand the logic as well. So when I do gotta use something, I remember the syntaxes, but I just gotta like type the stuff out, if that makes any sense. Okay, that's it. Once I'm done with the font, I go with my main loop. I create a boolean as running. I create a SDL underscore events as structure. I create a standard strings as input. Okay, here's the thing, guys. I forgot to start my text. So let's go with SDL underscore start text input function, which does require parameter of my window, ending with a semicolon. Alright, guys, I think this was the reason why it didn't work, because I forgot to start my text input. Now, if I did Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. I get my first window here. I get my second window here. Okay, it does work. What up, guys? Okay, so basically I did everything correct. I just forgot to start my text input, and the reason you guys couldn't see that, if you guys like did actually see it, is because of my color. I'm gonna change this back to be 0 because my color was white. Now if I did Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. So I get my first window here, and I get my second window all the way here. Okay, can you explain loops and while loops? Honestly, give me a sec. Okay, so if I type something, it does type there. If I hit enter, okay, it should be coming here. Okay, I did not delete it. There are some more errors, but I can actually fix that. Okay, go for it without cheating. Okay, so basically, what loops basically means, like while loop for in this case, while loop is like a kind of loop that keeps on running infinitely until we don't have a condition that explicitly like says the loop to stop. For example, in this case, I have a while loop here that ends if my user clicks the exit button. That's when my window also actually ends, because my window is technically running through my while loop, so it's constantly running until my user doesn't exit my window. And my event loops as while loop has a parameter of poll event. My poll event is a while loop that constantly runs as well every single frame, but it only works when one of these conditions are met. If none of these conditions are met, then it does not run, if that made any sense. Okay, now, the thing that I gotta do inside of my event loop, hold up guys, okay, so you make a 3x3 matrix and another as two arrays within arrays, then you iterate with 3x3 array to add the values together. I think long story, I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, that's it. Now for my event loop, I check if my event.type equals to SDL underscore quit, that's correct, and then I add this, that part works, and then I add a if statement here. So if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore key down, I create a key codes structure. Then I go with a switch of key. I check if my key is backspace. I check if my input is not empty. If it's not, I go with input.popback. I did that. Then I break. That part is correct. Then I go with a case. If my case is return, if my user clicked enter, I add a standard console output. Okay, and then SDL. Oh, I see. Here's the thing, guys. This is the kind of silly mistakes that I hate doing. So I go with another insertion operator of my input text. There we go. That should actually fix it. Then after that, I go with something like clear. Okay, maybe firstly, I actually clear my text right here. Okay, I'm gonna add maybe another. Okay, I go with something like clear text, then I break. So I'm gonna go with something like input text, then I'm gonna go ahead and break, ending with a semicolon. And that's like pretty much it. Now, if I need controllers to save the code again and run the command and see what happens, I get my first window here. Okay, and I get my second window up there. If I were to type something like hello, okay, the backspace does work as well. I'm gonna go with hello. How's your day? Question mark. If I hit enter, it does get pushed to my terminal that says hello, how's your day? Okay, perfect. Okay, how long did it take you to learn C++ and to understand it? Honestly, I'd say like it did take me 72 days because today is the day 72 of me learning C++. Okay, reverse a string without using built-in reverse method. Honestly, we could use like a recursion for that. Okay, what you building, bro? Honestly, I just like run the code, but I could like run it again. Okay, so it's technically, I have a window here and I have my second terminal here. If I type something, it does type on my window. If I hit enter, it goes down to my terminal. The reason I did like learn this logic is to have chat box and everything, because eventually I do want to chat with my NPCs in my game like a chat bot when I do actually make my game that consists of AI logic in it. That said, guys, even though I did type this, I did like need the reference to like see if you function and structure names. That said, I'm gonna go ahead and try typing this again so I actually understand how it works. Okay, why are you not using namespace std? Honestly, the reason I don't use using namespace std is because eventually in bigger projects, not prefixing with standard can like cause name conflicts. So it is a pretty good practice to avoid using it. That's it. Let me hydrate my lips real quick. Okay, and guys, I'm actually gonna like write this code again a few more times to actually like understand how it works. That said, reverse a string without using built-in reverse methods. Honestly, I don't think that should be hard. I could just use the recursion method and then like get the last of my string and display it first, and then the second last of my string and display it second. I do need to remember the syntaxes though. That said, now let me actually take a good look at this code. Okay, so I initialize my TDF, and then I go ahead and create my window. I load my font using TDF underscore font, and then I give my font as file path that I will be copying here because I do want to always remember my file path. What up, guys? Let's go ahead and copy that. There we go. Okay, and then I check if my font was not created properly. I give myself an error. Then I go with a main loop. For my main loop, I create a few variables. I gotta make sure to start my text input. Okay, and then I create a while loop. I create a event loop. The basic stuff out here. Okay, for my return, I say you type this input text, and then I end my line. I clear my my input text, and then I break. And then I go with something like fill screen. I fill my screen, and then I add graphics. I create a color. I create a surface. Okay, that is going to be equal to my TDF underscore render text underscore a blended function. Okay, and then I go with something like if my surface was created properly, I create a texture. I get the size. I get the width and height of my texture. I create a direction rect. And then I render my text on my screen. This is actually easy if you think about it. It's just a few syntaxes that I gotta memorize. Okay. for every integer I equals to str.length minus 1. Okay, while my I is less than 0, increment I by 1. And then system dot out dot println standard dot character at and I see. Okay, that's it. Now let me start off by firstly including a pair of ankle braces. Let's say I want to include IO stream. Once I'm done including IO stream, let's go ahead and include a pair of ankle braces again. Let's go ahead and include SDL3 since I will be using SDL3. And also I'm going to be including the SDLs as header files. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and include my TDF, which is true texture format. I'm going to go with SDL3 underscore TDF slash SDL underscore TDF.h, which is my TDF, and my TDF says header files. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and include a pair of ankle braces. Let's say I want to include my string as well because I will be using a C string, which is a constant string. Okay, how much you earn from your YouTube live streams? Honestly, I don't earn anything. Okay, that's it. Once I'm done with that, I'm gonna go ahead and create a main function. So I'm gonna go with something like integer main, add a pair of parentheses. Now my main function is gonna be having two parameters. The first parameter is gonna be an integer of argc. The second parameter is gonna be a character, which is gonna be an array towards, which is gonna be a pointer towards an array of argv. And then I go with a pair of curly braces. Okay, what are you building again? Honestly, I'm working on the same exact code because I do want to get some more practice to learn the function and all that stuff. Do you eat and fart curry? Honestly, no. Okay, that's it now. Inside of my main function, firstly, I'm going to be using an if statement to initialize my SDL and also check if my SDL was not initialized properly. Maybe before my if statement, I'm going to add a comment that says something like initialize SDL. Okay, so I'm going to be initializing my SDL here. So I'm going to go with something like a pair of parentheses. Let's see something like if not SDL underscore init with a pair of parentheses SDL underscore init underscore video. If the video section of my SDL was not initialized properly, I'm going to do something. Firstly, I'm going to be adding a standard C header with an insertion operator. This is going to be an a text header or a header text that I'm going to be displaying on my screen. I'll go with something like SDL underscore init error because my SDL was not initialized properly. Okay, then I'm going to go with another insertion operator and use the function that actually gets me an error. So I'll use the SDL underscore get errors as function with a pair of parentheses. Then I go with another insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. There we go. Okay, now once I'm done with this, I'm going to go ahead and return one saying something went wrong with this block of code, so go check it out. Okay, that's pretty much it for initializing my SDL. Once I'm done with that, I'm gonna add a comment that says something like initialize, let's say TDF, my true texture font. Okay, now tell me how much handle runtime error in C. Also, they doesn't have try catch. Honestly, I haven't started E. Tell me how to handle runtime error in C. Also, they don't have try catch. Honestly, okay, hiding long story. I appreciate you joining the stream. That's it. Hello, hiding writer. I appreciate you joining the stream. Now, to initialize my SDL, it's almost the same as initializing. Actually, to initialize my TDF, it's almost the same as initializing my SDL, but I go with something like TDF underscore init. This is going to be a capitalized init with a pair of parentheses. Then I go with a pair of curly braces. Now, what this basically means is if my TDF was not initialized properly, I'm going to do something. I'm going to be adding a standard C header with an insertion operator. This is going to be an header text. I'm going to say something like TDF underscore init header. Okay, so my TDF was not initialized properly. Then I go with another insertion operator and use the function that actually gets me an error. So I'm going to use this SDL underscore the get errors as function. This function actually gets me an error. Then I'm going to go with another insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and return one thing, everything like something went wrong with this block of code, so go check it out. Okay, system.out.print is Java man, I see. Okay, C++ is console output, but I was here from the beginning. Honestly, I do appreciate that long story that tells me the word to be. Okay, good. Do you know how to handle runtime exception in C++ using try catch? Honestly, yeah, I did actually, I did like use the try catch method in Python, but I actually didn't think that C++ had it. I might actually look into it. Okay, if not, you should learn it first, dude. Honestly, I might actually look into that. Okay, now once I'm done initializing my SDL, actually initializing my SDL and my TDF, I'm gonna add a comment that says something like game variables. Okay, let's go with something like game variables. Now, for my game variables, so I'm gonna go ahead and check something. Firstly, I'm gonna go with something like a constant integer of width, which is going to be my Windows's width. I'm going to be setting that to be 1000, and then I'll go with something like a constant integer of height, which is going to be set to 800, ending with a semicolon. Okay, C editor is more advanced in SDL from what I've seen. Honestly, the only thing I do like look at C editor for is like I could use console output as well, but C editor is like for a edit text. So whenever I see a C editor, I think that oh, this is supposed to be an editor's text. In the other hand, if I see like a console output, I think that's something that should be displayed on my console. If that makes any sense. That said, I'm gonna go with another comment now that says something like create window and renderer. So now I'm going to be creating both my window and my renderer at the same time, but to do that I do need two local pointers. Okay, to get those I could use the SDL underscore windows structure, which is going to be having a Windows pointer representing it. That is going to be set to something like null PDR ending with a semicolon, and then I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore renderer, which is going to be having a renderer as pointer representing it as well. That is going to be set to null PDR as well, ending with a semicolon. Now that I'm done creating both my window and my renderer as pointer, I'm going to go ahead and use the function that actually creates my window and my renderer. So I could use the SDL underscore create window and renderer function. What this function actually does is it like creates both my window and my renderer at the same time, but it does require a few parameters. For example, a title parameter, a width parameter, a height parameter, and a Windows flag parameter. Okay, Python needs them all. Honestly, Python is pretty fun. Outputting info or errors to C editor is good, as you can separate errors from outputs when piping and such. Actually, that does make sense. Okay, that said, let's say my Windows' title is going to be something like SDL3 window created. Okay, then I'm going to go with comma. The second and third parameter is going to be my width variable and my height variable, which is technically my Windows' width and height / 1000 by 800. And then the fourth parameter is going to be a flag for my window. My flag is going to be SDL underscore window underscore resizable. Basically, this flag makes my window resizable. If you guys don't want to add a flag, you guys could go with 0 as well. That said, next up, the fifth and sixth parameter is going to be the memory address of my window local variable. Okay, and excuse me guys, and the memory address for my renderer local variable. Then I end my entire function with a semicolon. Now that I'm done with this, I'm gonna go ahead and use a if statement to check if my window and my renderer was not created properly, because apparently in C++, after we use a function to create something, we do gotta check if it was not created properly, because like C++ does not tell us which function had an error. We gotta give ourselves that error. So I'm gonna go with something like if not window, if my window was not created properly, or not a renderer, if my renderer was not created properly, I'm gonna do something. Firstly, I'm gonna add a standard C error and display myself an error text. So I'm gonna go with something like SDL underscore creates window and a renderer error. There we go. Okay, and then I go with another insertion operator and use the function that actually gets me an error. So I'm going to use the SDL underscore get errors function, and then I go with another insertion operator and add a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Okay, once I'm done with that, I'm gonna go ahead and quit my SDL, because if either my window or my renderer was not created properly, I do want to exit my SDL. So I'm gonna go with something like SDL underscore quit ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I'm gonna return wanting something went wrong in this block of code, so check it out. Okay, if you ever tried to handle the exception in C, you need to include error.h, after which they have a p error that print standard output you output. I see, that sucks. Okay, now once I'm done creating both my window and my renderer, I'm gonna add a comment that says something like main loop, because I don't think there's anything else that I do gotta create now. For my main loop, I'm gonna create a boolean variable of something like is running. Actually, before I do create my main loop, I did forget, I gotta go ahead and load a font. This is gonna be the font that my texture is actually going to be on my screen, if that makes any sense. So now to create a font, this is the trickier part. I could go ahead and use the TDF underscore fonts structure. Oh, this was the structure. I thought that I didn't remember this part. What up, guys? So my TDF underscore font is gonna have a fonts variable, which is gonna be equal to TDF underscore. Alright, guys, I forgot the function name. Might have to look at the reference for this part. Okay, so I gotta use the TDF underscore open fonts function. There we go. I actually forgot the function's name. Open fonts function. There we go, with the row of parentheses. Now my open font does require two parameters: my file and my font's size. Let's say my file is going to be my fonts underscore open sans with a hyphen italic. Guys, there is no way I'm actually gonna type this font out, so I just like copied it last time from the previous code. My size is going to be 24, ending with a semicolon. Now that I'm done creating a font, since I did use a function here, I do gotta add a if statement to check if this was not created properly, if my font was not created properly. I'm gonna go with something like if not font, if my font was not created properly. I'm gonna add a standard C error, so let's go with something like a standard C error with an insertion operator that says something. So I'm gonna go ahead and tell myself that I got a loading font error. There we go. Okay, so I got a loading font error, which means my font was not loaded properly. Once I'm done with that, I'm gonna go with another insertion operator and use the function that actually gets me an error. So I'll use the SDL underscore get errors function. Okay, with another insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Now, once I'm done with this, guys, something is... Guys, why is my keyboard not working? Did I run out of battery or something? What up, guys? There's no way I ran out of battery like on stream. Hold up, guys, give me a sec. Let me actually check if I did run out of battery. Let me just try to unplug and replug this from my PC. Okay, was that my mouse? Guys, I unplugged the wrong USB. What up? So let's try replugging it back. Because if not, I'm gonna like change my battery real quick. What up, guys? Let's try to replug that and open the keyboard to the USB. Guys, it hurts so bad opening the USB. Okay, let's go ahead and replug it. Okay, does it work now? The moment of truth. It does not. Apparently, I gotta change my keyboard's battery. Guys, it's so annoying to like do these things like on stream. But guys, let's actually open my thing. Okay, so I need to double A batteries. Give me a sec, guys. Let me actually grab them real quick. Hold up. So, okay, give me a sec, guys. I'll be right back. Okay, so let's see where my AA batteries should be somewhere here, right? Okay, not sure. Give me a sec, guys. Let me go to my restroom and check. Okay, let's close the vent. Let's open this up. There we go, found it. Okay, let's go ahead and close that. Close the lights up. Maybe open the vents. Okay, guys. Right here with the batteries, let me try to actually open this and like connect it on my keyboard, because like there's no way I actually like ran out of batteries like on stream. There you go. Let's go ahead and open that up. Okay, let's just remove this. Okay, wait, guys, was it AA or AAA batteries? Because this feels kind of huge. Were these? I think these are AA. Guys, what size is this? Okay, this looks like AA. I needed a AAA, guys. Hold up, let me be right back again. Okay, going back to my restroom. So, let's see. So, okay, that is AA's. Where are my AAA batteries? Do I have AAA batteries? What up, guys? I should have been prepared off stream, but I didn't know like my battery was gonna run out like on stream. Huh. Okay, don't I have like any other keyboards? Let me actually check if I got some other keyboard. Okay, maybe I do have like another puny keyboard here. I might actually use this keyboard, guys. Okay, because I do not know where my AAA batteries are. Okay, because guys, this is like the size comparison between the two keyboards that I actually use. Let me keep that there and check if this keyboard got a USB in it. What up, guys? Not a USB. This keyboard does have AAA batteries. Maybe I use the AAA batteries from this keyboard, guys, because I am used to using the big keyboard instead of like the smaller ones. What up, guys? Okay, let's go ahead and like close this up real quick. Okay, guys, apparently I think like this solve the issue here. Okay, let's go ahead and open that. There we go. Okay, and let's, guys, this AAA feels so small. Okay, how do we actually put these batteries in? Okay, do we put the batteries upwards? Okay, I think that's how it is. Okay, let's see if it works. Oh, it actually does work. Okay, I think it works, guys. Alright, we're good. Okay, let's go ahead and close this up. Now, once I'm done with that, let's go ahead and exit everything. And guys, let's go with something like end line. Okay, guys, that was that keyboard was such a lifesaver. Okay, I'm back. Hiding well, Wick. I appreciate joining the stream. If you need job, do Python. Honestly, I did do Python. It was kind of fun. Okay, that's it. Now, once I'm done with this, I forgot where was I. Okay, so I created a font. Now I had to check if my font was not created properly. I did that. And then I gotta go ahead and return one, ending with a semicolon. Okay, are you using HP laptop? Honestly, I do have like a HP laptop, but I am using MSI's PC because like I cannot stream in my laptop, so I do stream in PC. Okay, do you have a headphone dent? I did like get the stream before. Let me actually check. Do I have a headphone dent? Hold up, guys. Let me actually go to my main camera. Do I have a headphone dent? Maybe not, guys. I don't think, because like I do have like curly hair. Okay, that said, let's go all the way here. Let's go back to my gameplay screen. Guys, I actually think I don't have a headphone dent. So, okay, that's it. Now, once I'm done creating my font, I'm going to go ahead and create a main function now. So, I'm going to go ahead and create a main function. So, okay, so this is going to be my main loop. Now, inside of my main loop, I'm going to be needing a few variables. The first variable is going to be a Boolean variable of something like is running, which is initially going to be set to true, ending with a semicolon. And then I'm going to be needing an event variable as well. So I'm going to go with something like SDL_event. Looking sharp. Guys, that actually sounds actually kind of cool. I appreciate you for that long story. Although, guys, I haven't, like, blow dried my hair in a while. So this is just like the messy hair. Okay, next up, once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and requiring a few variables inside of a main loop. A is running variable, a event variable. And then let's go with something like a standard string variable, which is going to be something like input text. So I'm going to go with input text. This is going to be the text that my user actually types. I'm going to be setting that equal to an empty string ending with a semicolon. Vivek is intelligent. Guys, I think I'm the complete opposite. Okay, that said, once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and create, let's say I'm going to jumpstart my text input. So I'm going to go with something like SDL_start text input with a pair of parentheses. This function does require parameter of my window ending with a semicolon. And this is where I messed up like the last time I wrote this code because like I did not add this function here. Now, once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and add a while loop. So let's go with something like while a pair of parentheses. Let's say something like while is running, while my program is running, or while my is running is set to true. I'm going to do something. I'm going to add a comment that says something like event loop. For my event loop, I'm going to be adding a while loop inside of a while loop, which is technically a nested while loop. But my event loop does require a parameter of the SDL_poll events function. And my SDL_poll events function does require a parameter of the memory address for my event variable. What the SDL_poll events function does is it like looks for all the events that I'm going to be looking for inside of my while loop. If any of those events is met, it does what I tell it to do. For example, I could go with something like if a pair of parentheses. Let's say if my event.type equals to SDL_event_quit. So if my event type is quit, if my user did click the top right X button to quit my event, I'm going to do something. I'm going to go with a pair of curly braces, and then let's say I'm going to add a standard end line. And actually, my bad, guys. I'm going to be setting my is running Boolean variable to be false, ending with a semicolon. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to be adding another event variable. Okay, hello hiding writer, I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, I'm going to be adding another event variable. So this time I'm going to go with something like if a pair of parentheses. Maybe I go down here. Okay, I'm going to be checking. I'm going to check if my event.type equals to SDL_event_text_input. What this event type basically means is it like looks for if my user is typing some kind of text. If it is typing text, I'm going to do something. Firstly, I'm going to be adding my text to my inputs, let's say text variable. So I'm going to go with input text plus equals to, let's say something like my event.text.text. And then I'm gonna go ahead and end this with a semicolon. And hold up, guys, let me just write something down real quick. Let's go with something like 119. Actually, I might go with something like 115. Okay, because I do sometimes like use clips from my short type stuff. Okay, let's go with something like 11500. Okay, perfect. Brother, would you prefer Pygame to SDL? Oh, that's actually a hard question. I do love Pygames a lot as well. Maybe I would actually prefer SDL because SDL does make me think more than Pygames did. Pygame was like pretty easy, but I felt like I was like limited to some sort. Probably because I was not like smart enough and everything. I feel like SDL, it gives me like a lot more flexibility to like actually change stuff outside of my main function that I could do in like Pygames as well. But I feel just C++ does hit a bit different. That's it. If I do want to like sometime program while relaxing and all that, I would definitely go with Pygames. Vibe coder. Honestly, guys, I don't think like I am really a vibe coder because isn't vibe coding like actually copying code from like ChatGPT or like AI and then pasting it and using that that block of code without understanding what it means? I do actually type everything on my own. Okay, that's the next step. I'm gonna go with something like if my event.type equals to let's go with something like SDL underscore event underscore key underscore down. So if my event type is key down, if any of my buttons on my keyboard are being pushed down, I'm gonna do something. Firstly, I'm gonna go ahead and let's see. I'm gonna be using the SDL underscore key codes structure. This is gonna be having a keys as local variable representing it, which is gonna be equal to my event.key.key, ending with a semicolon. Basically, what my event.key.key means is it checks the exact key that is being pushed down, and if one of the keys that I'm going to be looking for inside of my switches are being pushed down, then it's going to do what I tell it to do. Okay, so I'm going to go with something like switch and then key, then add a pair of curly braces. Now for my switch, I'm going to be adding a few cases. For my case number 1, I'm going to check if my SDL's key is, let's say, something like a backspace. Okay, if my backspace is clicked, if my user did click backspace, I want to delete whatever I typed in case I had a typo. So I'm going to be adding an if statement to check if there's at least something in my window to delete. So I'm going to go with something like if not input text dot empty. If my input text is not empty, there is something in the window to be deleted. Then I'm going to go ahead and do something. Firstly, I'm gonna go with something like input text variable dot the pop underscore back function with a pair of parentheses ending with a semicolon. Once I'm done with that, I'm gonna go ahead and break. Okay, what happens? Honestly, guys, I'm kind of confused as well. Okay, that's it. Now, once I'm done with that, I'm gonna go ahead and add my second case. For my second case, I'm gonna check if my SDL's key is, let's say, something like return. If so, there we go. Okay. Did I spell it correct? There we go. Okay, what the return basically does is it like return is technically enter. If I hit enter in my keyboard, then I'm going to do something. Firstly, I'm going to display a standard console output with an insertion operator. Let's say something like you typed or player. Alright guys, there we go. Let's go with something like player text. Okay. And then I'm going to go with another insertion operator. My player text is going to be my input text. There we go. With a pair of parentheses. Hold up guys, I think I spelled my input text wrong. There we go. With another insertion operator of, let's say, something like a standard end line ending with a semicolon. So I display my input text, I end my line, and then I want to clear my input text as well once I actually displayed it on my console. I don't want it in my window anymore. So I could go with something like input text.the clear function. This clears my entire input text with a pair of parentheses ending with a semicolon. Then I go ahead and break as well because you do gotta break in cases. And that's pretty much it for like me typing stuff and displaying it on my console. Now I want to display it on my window as well, so I'm gonna go ahead and exit my while loop, and then let's go actually my event while loop, and then I'll add a comment that says something like fill screen. I want to fill my screen with a certain color. Maybe I fill my screen with white color this time. Okay, do you know anything about malware analysis? Honestly, I haven't like tried that yet. That's it. What's it about? Actually, what are you building? Honestly, I'm like building a window where I can actually type stuff on my keyboard. For example, a chat box. eventually I want to add like a kind of content where I can actually talk with my NPCs inside of my game, if that makes any sense. Okay, next up, for filling my screen, I'm going to be setting a color to my renderer, because technically renderer is the stuff that actually colors my screen. That said, I'm going to use the SDL underscore set of render draw color function, so I'm setting my renderer to draw a color on my screen. Now my set render draw color function does require a few parameters. The first parameter is going to be my renderer. The second, third, and fourth parameter is going to be a whatchamacallit, a RGB value. I want my I want my screen to be white this time. Usually I do go with cyan, but this time I want to go with white. Lastly, my fourth parameter is going to be opacity, how transparent or how not transparent I want it to be. In this case, I don't want it to be transparent at all. Once I'm done setting a color to my renderer, I'll use the SDL underscore render clear function. This function actually clears my renderer, actually clears my screen with the color that is set to my renderer. Okay, which in this case is white, and then enter with a semicolon. Okay, run it now, bro. Run the program, dude. Honestly, if I run the program, like there's like nothing's gonna happen. Like if I run the program, actually nothing. It's not like nothing will happen. So I do get my first window here. I mean my first terminal and my second terminal. I type something like "Hi, how are you?" If I hit enter, I do see my player text on my console, but I want to see it on my window, and I want my window to be white and not black here. So I'm gonna go ahead and exit that. Now, once I'm done with that, I'm done filling my screen. I'm going to be adding a comment that says something like graphics. Okay, this is going to be where I set colors for my, let's go with graphics, where I set a color for my text that's going to be displayed on my screen. I want my text to be red this time. Maybe black or like blue, I don't know. I'll go ahead and add the SDL underscore. Okay, is it SDL underscore color or TDF underscore color is the structure? It is SDL underscore colors as structure, which is going to be having a colors as pointer representing it. That is going to be equal to a pair of curly braces. Okay, let's see. Now, my colors as parameter does require a few a few parameters. It requires a RGB value. I forgot. Does it require an alpha as well? Hold up, guys. I might have to like check this part out because this is like a newer part. I load fonts. And then render text to surface, SDL underscore color text. That goes before my main loop. I mean, I could add it here as well. So I require, let's say something like, maybe I'll go with, okay, do I want to go with black color or red color? Guys, pick black or red, black or red. Okay, opacity. Honestly, I do need to add alpha, but should I go with black or red? I'm kind of confused. Maybe I'll go with red, so I'll go with something like 255, 0, 0, and 255. Okay, and this is not going to be a pointer. There we go. Okay, perfect. Alright, and that's pretty much it for my color. I'm going to go ahead and end it with a semicolon. Once I'm done with my color, I do got to create a surface as well, so I'm going to go ahead and use the SDL underscore surfaces structure. Okay, with an asterisk to, let's say something like my surface, so I have a surfaces pointer, okay, which is going to be equal to, okay, this is the harder part, guys, TDF underscore render surface underscore blended. Okay, guys, I think this is the wrong function name. Okay, black. Honestly, I could go with black as well. I feel like it's the same thing, so I'm going to go with something like 000255. Okay, no put 88, 100, 120. I could try that as well. Honestly, I might try both colors. I might try like black, red, and white like once the code is done. So I mean, I could go with something like 88, 100, and 120 as well. Okay, and I will be changing it to be black as well later because I do want to try all the different colors. Okay, that said, so the part where I actually I'm struggling right now with is I create a surface. TDF underscore render text blended, so it's render text blended, not render surface blended. There we go. Now my render text blended, this function does require a few parameters. First is going to be a font parameter, which is going to be my font local variable. The second is going to be a text parameter, which is going to be my input text dot the C underscore string. So this is a constant string. Okay, what's he cooking? Honestly, I'm trying to like type stuff on my keyboard and like show it on my window as well. And if I hit enter, I want it to go to my console, if that makes any sense. Use a very dark gray on a very light gray. On a very light gray. I see. Okay, and then what's the next parameter? I need a size. I don't have a size, so I'll go with something like 0. And then I'm going to add another insertion operator for, let's say, something like color. And guys, this shouldn't be insertion operator, my bad. This should be a comma. Okay, and then I'm going to add a comma here. Let's go with something like my color, which is going to be my color local variable here. Then I end my entire function with a semicolon. Once I'm done creating a surface, I gotta check if my surface was actually created properly. Is that part correct? Convert surface to texture. I gotta convert my surface to texture. Okay, so let's add a comment that says something like convert surface to texture. There we go. Okay guys, this is the harder part because this is like the newer part. I might have to look at the reference way too often. Okay, use a very dark black on a very light black, brother. Honestly, it does make sense. I mean, dark black, what's the difference between dark black and light black? Isn't black like a dark color in general? It would make sense if I use like black in like a white window. Okay, that's it. Now to create a surface, I'm gonna go ahead and use the SDL underscore textures the structure, which has a pointer of texture representing it. That is going to be equal to what was the function name? I think it was SDL underscore create texture from surface function. There we go. Okay, now my SDL underscore create texture from surface requires 2 parameters. The first is going to be my renderer parameter. The second is going to be my surface, which is my surface local variable. Then I go ahead and end this with a semicolon. Okay, what is opacity? It was a joke, bro. Honestly, opacity is how transparent or how not transparent I want my color to be. For example, 0 is going to be completely transparent. I cannot see my color anymore. 255 on the other hand is not transparent at all. My color won't be transparent. 150 is going to be slightly see-through, like my color will be slightly see-through type stuff. That makes any sense? Okay, there's nothing like light black. That actually does make sense. Bro said it makes sense. You said dark black on light black. Honestly, guys, I say it makes sense for almost anything, even if it doesn't make sense, because like I sometimes don't pay attention. That said, once I'm done with creating my texture, I'm gonna add a if statement to check if my texture was created properly. Usually I go it was not, but I want to check if it was created properly. So I'm gonna go with something like texture. I think text texture would sound a much better name than texture, because texture is kind of vague. In the other hand, text texture makes more sense, so I might go with something like text texture. Okay, this is going to be a lowercase t. There we go. Now, if my text's texture was created properly, I'm going to do something. Firstly, I go ahead and destroy my texture. Okay, so let's go with something like SDL underscore destroy texture. Okay, did I like actually do all this last time I actually added my texture? Okay, so I go ahead and destroy my texture. This does require a parameter of my texture, which in this case is going to be my text textures is local variable ending with a semicolon. Once I'm done with that, outside of my if statement, so I go outside of my if statement, I create a text texture. Okay, I create a text textures this variable. Wait, hold up, guys. I think there's an easier way to write this. If I were to like scroll all the way up here, okay, so I think there's like a much easier way to write this without requiring the texture. I check if my surface was not created properly. That part actually does work. What's the difference? Okay, so instead of actually creating a texture here, I'm gonna go ahead and delete this part. Because I actually think, I know that there's an easier way to do this. So once I create my surface, I'm going to add something like if surface. If my surface was created properly, then I'm going to be creating a texture. I think I need something that closes it here. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do something here. Let's go ahead and firstly go with SDL underscore textures a structure with an asterisk of something like text texture. Okay, which is going to be equal to SDL underscore render texture from surface function. Okay, with a pair of parentheses. Did I spell surface correct? Okay, wait, is my function name wrong, guys? I think I wrote this function like just right now. Texture from surface. There we go. Wait, I think it's create. Oh, I went with render texture. My bad, guys. I think that was like a muscle memory that typed render. So I create my texture from my surface. Now this does require a few parameters. So it requires my render parameter and my surface parameter. And then I'm gonna go ahead and end my function with a semicolon. Now being inside of my if statement, I'm gonna create a SDL underscore frex structure, okay, which does require a DST rect. Okay, this is going to be my direction rect. And then I'm going to go with something like DST rect dot x-axis is going to be equal to 100, ending with a semicolon. Then DST rect dot y-axis is going to be equal to 100 as well, ending with a semicolon. Then I'm going to go with DST rect dot width. That is going to be equal to my textures as width. Now, I don't have my textures as width right here. So I'm going to go ahead and let's say create two floating point variables. The first is going to be my textures as, excuse me guys, my textures as width variable. Second is going to be my textures as height variable, ending with a semicolon. Once I'm done creating both these variables, I'm going to go ahead and use the SDL underscore get texture size function. This function gets my textures as size, but it does require a few parameters. The first is going to be my textures as parameter. The second is going to be the memory address of my textures as width. The third is going to be the memory address of my textures as height floating point variable, ending with a semicolon. And then I just add my textures as width variable here, and then I go with something like DST rect dot height equals to my textures as height, ending with a semicolon. Now, once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and use the SDL underscore render texture function. What this function basically does is it like renders my texture on my screen, although it does require a bunch of parameters. The first is going to be my renders as parameter. The second I'm assuming is going to be my texture. Okay, it is going to be my texture, so I'm going to go with something like text texture. Okay, and then the third parameter is going to be a source rect. Since I don't have a source rect, I'm going to set that equal to null PTR, which is a placeholder for pointers. Lastly, my fourth parameter is going to be my direction rect. I'm going to be setting that equal to be the memory address of my DST rect, because DST rect is technically my direction rect. That's the parameter it even asks here for, like DST rect. There we go. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and my entire function with a semicolon. Once I'm done with that, I exit outside of my if statement, add a comment that says something like present. I think there's a small mistake that I made here. There we go, that fixed it. Okay, now for my presenting, I'm going to go ahead and present my renderer. Present a renderer on screen. Actually, I'll just go with present renderer. Now to present my renderer, I could go ahead and use the SDL underscore render present function. So I'm saying my render to go ahead and present itself. My render present function does require a parameter of my renderer, ending with a semicolon. Okay, Sensei time, brother. Now you rarely use Sensei. You're getting good. Honestly, that does make sense, because usually I do like use Sensei / ChatGPT to actually understand the code. Once I do understand it, I feel like the logic shouldn't be that hard. The syntax and the function names are the real hard part. Okay, that said, now once I'm done presenting my renderer on the screen, I'm gonna go ahead and exit outside of my if state, actually outside of my main loop, and add a comment that says something like cleanup. Now, for my cleanup, firstly, I want to destroy my window, so I'll go with something like SDL underscore destroy window. Okay, with a pair of parentheses, that does require a window parameter ending with a semicolon, and then I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore destroy renderer. This is going to be my renderer's parameter, so I'm going to be destroying my renderer as well, ending with a semicolon. Then I go with something like SDL underscore quit with a pair of parentheses ending with a semicolon. Lastly, return 0. Okay, and that's pretty much it. Now, if I need controllers to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. What's even Sensei? Honestly, Sensei in Japanese means teacher. I thought it'd be a pretty cool name to actually keep that. Okay, that said, I get my first window here. The second window is here. So this is a white window. Let's type something like, hello, guys, exclamation. My name is Fifth Universe. Okay, the backspace works. Exclamation, if I hit enter, it gets typed to my terminal. So player typed, hello guys, my name is Viv Universe. maybe, just maybe, I want to change my color now. Let's go with something like black. Okay, now if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. So I get my first window here. This is my terminal window. My second window here. Okay, let's go ahead and type something like, hello, hello, guys, have a nice day, exclamation with a nice smiley emoji. Okay, with another exclamation ending with a semicolon. It says that in my terminal. Okay guys, I think I understand how this part actually works now. Maybe I just do need some more practice, like I gotta type this somewhere a couple more times to remember the function names and everything. Then later on I will probably, like once my college is over, I might actually draw a chat box type stuff and like create a event check to check if one of my buttons are being pressed. If I click that button, it opens my chat bot, I type something, and then it goes to my NPC in my game. If that makes any sense? I don't think that made any sense for the time being, guys. Okay, that's it. Let me take a good look at this. So I create my color, I create my surface, I go with render text blended function, and then I go with something like surface to check if my surface was created properly. If it was, I create a texture, and then I create texture from my surface. And then I go with something like I get my textures size, I create a direction vect, I display my texture on my screen. Okay, see windows slash font slash verdana.tff is a font on all window computer. It looks really good. Try it. Honestly, I could actually try it. Okay, so I could go all the way up here. So let's go ahead and change this to be something like C colon slash slash. Let's go with something like Windows. Okay, slash slash fonts to slash slash Verdana. So Perdana dot TFF. Okay, I haven't actually heard of this. I think I might get an error. Okay, honestly, I did get an error. It says like couldn't open C colon Windows slash. Oh, I spelled fonts wrong. Wait up, guys. Let me fix my typo real quick. Okay, now for it, Control S to save the code and run the command and see what happens. Okay, I mean, I get an error again. It's Perdana. Perdana. Okay, I think I spelled it correct, but I feel like. Okay, I don't think like I do have that font or something, or is it something that we gotta download type stuff? Okay, that said, I do understand how this works, but I want to type it out again because I actually think that I'm really close to remembering these functions right here. But I haven't like gotten a good grasp of it. I feel like I'm gonna forget if I didn't, get some more practice on it. That said, now let me firstly start off by including a pair of ankle braces. Let's say I want to include IO stream. And then let's go ahead and include a pair of ankle braces again. I want to include SDL3 slash SDL.h, which is SDL and SDL's header files. It's on all computers. Honestly, I'm using a PC. Is that like different from like computer type stuff? I mean, I think they're the same thing. Okay, and wrote TDF instead of TFF. Oh, I see. Whatever. Let me try fixing that real quick. In that case, okay, let's see if that actually works. I'll go with a bunch of Control C's. So this is going to be fonts TDF. There we go. Okay, now if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. It did actually work. Guys, I'm like actually shocked it worked. Let's go with something like, guys, this is kind of cool. This actually looks better than my other one. I'll go with something like, hello guys, exclamation. How's you guys' day, exclamation. Guys, I'm really shocked that this actually came here. Okay, it's an all-window computer. Guys, this actually was something new. Honestly, I appreciate you, Kelsman, here for actually pointing that out. I'm gonna remember this. So it's C colon with 2 forward slashes, windows slash font slash verdana.tdf. Okay, I think I'm gonna remember this and try this time. Maybe I copy this just to save some time. Okay, now I'm gonna go with a bunch of Control Shift Z's. Okay, maybe I just go with Control A and delete everything. Okay, in that case, was there even a reason for me to install TDF if I could just load a font like that? That said, let me start off by including, let's go with something like include a pair of ankle braces. Let's say I want to include IO stream. And then I'm gonna be including a pair of ankle braces SDL3 slash SDL.h, which is SDL3 and SDL's header files. Once I'm done with that, I'm gonna go ahead and include, let's say something like SDL3 underscore TDF slash SDL underscore TDF.h, which is my true texture font and my true texture fonts as header files. Once I'm done with that, I'm gonna go ahead and include a pair of ankle braces. Let's say I want to include string as well. Okay, once I'm done with that, I'm gonna go ahead and create a main function. And guys, maybe next stream I'm gonna work with applying gravity plus also adding text and everything. So like I'm gonna have a PNG, I'm gonna have a text, and if my user says some text, I'm gonna say my PNG to reply something else. Okay, Hindi's main job is IT. Honestly, I see that actually does make sense. That's it. Next up, in my main function, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna require two parameters. The first parameter is going to be an integer of argc. The second parameter is going to be a character, which is a pointer towards an array of argv. Once I'm done adding those two parameters, I'm gonna add a comment that says something like initialize SDL. So I'm gonna go ahead and initialize my SDL and also check if my SDL was not initialized properly using an if statement. So I'm gonna go with something like if not SDL underscore init. If my SDL was not initialized properly, I'm gonna check if my SDL's video section was not initialized properly. So I'm gonna go with SDL underscore window underscore init. So if my video section was not initialized properly, I'm gonna give myself a standard C error with an insertion operator that says something like SDL underscore init error. There we go. Okay, and once I'm done with that, I'm gonna go with another insertion operator and use a standard end line actually and use the function that actually gets me an error. Okay, good job, honestly, I appreciate you, Kay. Okay, so I'm gonna go with something like SDL underscore the get error function. This function actually gets me an error. Then I'm gonna go with another insertion operator of a standard end line, ending with a semicolon. And lastly, I'm gonna return one saying something I'm wrong in this block of code. Now, once I'm done with initializing my SDL, I'm gonna go ahead and initialize my TDF as well. So I'm gonna go with something like, there we go. Did I spell initialize correct? Okay, I think I spelled it correct. I'm going to initialize my TDF the same way as I initialized my SDL. So I'm going to go with something like TDF underscore init with a pair of parentheses. Okay, to initialize my TDF, then I go with a pair of... Okay, the init is going to be capitalized. There we go. Now, I'm going to check if my TDF was not initialized properly. I'm going to go ahead and do something. I'm going to display myself a standard C error with an insertion operator that says something like TDF underscore init error. It's honestly the same exact process as I did with my SDL underscore init, but I'm just doing it with TDF. So I go with SDL underscore get error to get an error. Then I go with a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I return one saying something I'm wrong in this block of code, so go check it out. Now, once I'm done with initializing my SDL, I'm gonna add a comment that says something like game variables. Game variables is basically the general variables that I might need in my game. For example, a constant integer of a width variable. This is going to be my Windows' width. So I'm going to set that equal to be 1000. And then I'm going to go with something like a constant integer of height. This is going to be my Windows' height. I'm going to set that equal to 800, ending with a semicolon. Now that I'm done with that, I'm going to add another comment that says something like create a window and render. So I'm going to be creating my window and my renderer both at the same time. Since I do want to create both at the same time, I might need two pointers. The first pointer is going to be representing my SDL underscore Windows structure. And I will be calling my pointer window, which is going to be set to null PTR, which is a placeholder for pointers. Then I'm ending it with a semicolon. The second is going to be a pointer representing my SDL underscore renderers structure. My pointer is going to be called a renderer. That is going to be set to null PTR as well. That is technically a placeholder for pointers. Now, once I'm done creating both my pointers, I'm going to go ahead and use use a function that actually creates both my window and my renderer at the same time. To do that, I could use the SDL underscore create. Okay, let's go with something like create a window and a renderer error. Okay, so this function, actually, my bad guys, not error. Just SDL underscore create window and renderer. This function creates both my window and my renderer at the same time, but it does require a few parameters. The first parameter is going to be a title / a caption for my window. I could go with something like SDL underscore window created exclamation. Then I go with a comma. My second and third parameter is going to be my Windows' width, which is my width variable, and my Windows' height, which is my height variable. Okay, and then the next parameter or the fourth parameter is going to be a flag for my window. If you guys don't want to add a flag, you guys could go with 0. but I do want to add a flag that makes my window resizable. So I could go with something like SDL underscore window. There we go. Underscore resizable flag. So resizable. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to add a comma. Now the 5th and 6th parameter is going to be the memory address of my window and the memory address of my renderer. And then I end my entire function with a semicolon. Now that I'm done creating both my window and my renderer, since this is C++, I do gotta add a if statement to check if my window and my renderer was not created properly. If they were not, I'm gonna give myself an error. So I'm gonna go with something like if not window, if my window was not created properly, or not a renderer. Let's go with something like not a renderer. If my renderer was not created properly, I'm going to do something. Firstly, I'm going to add a standard C error with an insertion operator. I'm going to display myself a error text. So I'm going to say something like SDL underscore create window and renderer error. There we go. So this is basically saying this function had an error, so check my function out. Once I'm done with displaying error text, I'm going to use the function that actually gets me an error. So I'll use the SDL underscore the get error function. This function actually gets me an error. Then I'm going to go with a standard end line ending with a semicolon. And guys, there we go. Okay, now once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and quit my SDL because if either my window or my renderer was not created properly, I do want to exit my SDL. So I'm going to go with SDL underscore quit with a row of parentheses ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I returned one saying everything went good in this. Actually, something is wrong in this block of code, so go check it out. It's not about Hindi or Bengali. He has some skills, and you're jealous. Honestly, it does make sense. Okay, that said, now once I'm done creating both my window and renderer, I'm gonna add a comment that says something like load font. So I'm going to be loading my font here. To load my font, I'm gonna go ahead and use the, let's say something like TDF. Actually, I think it's something like SDL underscore fonts structure. Okay, maybe it's something like TDF underscore fonts structure. There we go. It is TDF underscore font, which is going to be having a font here. Okay, it's going to be a pointer to my font that is going to be equal to the TDF. Okay, guys, this is the part that's kind of hard to remember. So I need my function name. My function name is going to be TDF underscore. Was it something like load texture font? What if I go with control space? Get texture font. I don't think it is get texture font. Let's go with something like, okay, hold up guys, I might have to like look at reference for this, whatchamacallit, for the function name because I forgot the function name to load my font. Okay, it is open font. There we go. This is the thing that I keep forgetting. It's open font. So it's TDF underscore open font. I open my font. Just to be sure that I remember this next time, let's see what it does. Creates a font from file using a specified point size. Okay, fonts will have several sizes embedded in the file, so the point size becomes the index, choosing which size. If the value is too high, the last index size will be the default. When done with the return, TDF font uses TDF underscore close font to dispose of it. I did not use TDF underscore close font. I might have to ask sensei/ChatGPT, what does that do? Okay, when do I gotta use the close font? Maybe once I work with cleanup. But it's late where I'm from, so good night and good luck. Honestly, I appreciate you sticking through the stream. Long story. I'll catch you next stream. Make sure to get your 8 hours of sleep. That said, I'm gonna add a file path here. So my file path is going to be the c/window/font/verdana.tff. The second parameter. Okay, guys, let me get some coffee here. Okay, I don't know where to keep it. There we go. I hope it doesn't fall. Okay, the second parameter is going to be a size. Let's say my font size is going to be 24. Then add my entire function with a semicolon. Okay, bye, long story. Hey guys, let me actually drink my coffee real quick. Maybe I do wanna, make a short because I'm out of short content. So I'll just make a short, just chugging a coffee. So let's go to my main camera. Guys, let me just chug some of this black mushroom coffee. There we go, guys. That was probably a worth it short content. You guys are going to see this in the short tomorrow, like the after tomorrow. Okay, that said, let's go to my... Oh, guys, I was struck. Let's go to my gameplay screen. Guys, I don't know if that was stupid or what. I should have saved the coffee and drunk it in segments. That would have given me more energy. Okay, that said, once I'm done with that, there's no way my window was blurry when I was chugging that coffee out. Okay, I think it's kind of fine right now. Okay. That said, I might need to drink some water real quick. That was kind of bitter. Okay, user tech support followed by skim followed by ER. Tech support. Honestly, guys, I don't think I'm that experienced enough to like do some tech support. Okay, so let's see. Once I'm done loading my font, I'm gonna go ahead and add a if statement to check if my font was not loaded properly. Bro, have you finished your college? Honestly, I am just 17, so I am like a freshman in college. Although I haven't taken any programming courses yet. I am going to be taking the programming fundamentals course like next semester, like the basics of programming. Guys, I feel I'm going to be acing that that class. That's it. Next, I'm going to go with something like if not font. If my font was not created properly, I'm going to do something. Firstly, I'm going to be adding a standard C editor with an insertion operator, which is going to be saying something like, okay, let's say something like loading font editor. Guys, I shouldn't have chugged the coffee completely, and now I feel awful right now. Okay, then I'm going to go with another insertion operator and use the function that actually gets me error. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore the get error function. Okay, hold up guys, let's go with something like the get error function with a pair of parentheses. This function actually gets me an error. Then I'm going to go with a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Okay, guys, I forgot to let me actually like note the time down because like let's go with something like let's go with maybe I don't know something like 5400. Okay, perfect. Now once I'm done with that, I'm gonna go ahead and let's say something like return one thing. Something went wrong in this block of code. And now that I'm done creating a font, I'm gonna add a comment that says something like main loop. For my main loop, firstly, I'm gonna be creating a boolean variable of is running, which is initially gonna be set to true, ending with a semicolon. Then I might need an event variable as well. Do you always drink black coffee? Honestly, I feel like it is really cool to drink. Like, I feel like I like the bitter taste of like black coffee and like black chocolate type stuff. Okay, that said, I feel like it is kind of good for our bowel as well. Like, not our bowel, like our digestion and all that stuff, if that makes any sense. Okay, next I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore event, which has a event variable representing it, ending with a semicolon. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to create a standard strings variable, which is going to be called something like input text, okay, ending with a semicolon. And then I want to jumpstart my text input as well. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore, I don't know, I forgot the function name. Maybe it was something like start input. There we go. Okay, it was start input text function with a pair of parentheses that does require parameter. Wait, I think it was start text input. There we go. With a pair of parentheses, this does require parameter of my window, ending with a semicolon. Once I'm done with this, I'm gonna go ahead and create my main while loop now. So I'm gonna go with something like while a pair of parentheses. Let's say something like while is running, while my program is running, or while my is running is set to true. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna add a event loop. So let's go with something like event loop. Now my event loop is gonna be another while loop. So it's a while loop inside of the while loop slash a nested while loop. Now my event loop is going to be requiring a SDL underscore poll events function as a parameter to it, and my SDL underscore poll events function does require a parameter which is going to be the memory address of my event variable. Okay, so technically, basically what the SDL underscore poll events function does is it like looks for all the events that I'm actually looking for inside of my while loop. If one of those events is met, it does what I tell it to do. So, for example, I could go with something like if a pair of parentheses, let's say if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore quit. If my event type is quit, then I'm going to do something. I'm going to set my, let's say something like, I'm going to set my is running boolean variable to be false, ending with a semicolon. Okay, and that's like pretty much it for my first event loop. So I'm going to go ahead and exit that. For my second event check, I'm going to go with something like if my event dot type equals to SDL underscore event underscore text underscore input. What this event type basically does slash means is it looks if any of my keyboard buttons are currently being pushed on my keyboard. If it is, then I'm going to do something. I'm going to go ahead and add that to my input text. I'm going to go with something like input text plus equals to my event.text.text. So it adds my text to my empty string. I should set this equal to an empty string. There we go. Okay, it adds that to my input text variable here. Okay, and next up, I'm going to add another event check. So I'm going to go with something like if a pair of parentheses, if my event.type equals to SDL underscore event underscore key underscore down. What the SDL underscore event underscore key underscore down function does is it like actually the check does is it checks if any of my buttons in my keyboard are currently being pushed down. If they are, it does what I tell it to do. So I'm firstly going to use the SDL underscore key codes structure, which is going to be having a key local variable representing it that is going to be equal to my event.key.key. This checks if the exact key that I'm currently pushing down, and then I'm going to go ahead and add switches. Now for my switch, I'm going to be adding my key as a parameter, and then now my switch is going to be having a few cases. I feel the space looks weird here. There we go. For my case 1, I'm going to check if my SDL's key is something like a backspace. If my user click backspace to like delete something, I'm going to do something. Okay, Jesus Christ loves you. He died at the cross to pay the price of your sins and rose again in the third day. Repent of your sins and turn to him before it's too late. That actually does make sense. Okay, that's it. Next up, I'm gonna go with something like if a pair of parentheses. Let's say something like the only time I want my backspace to work is if my input text is not empty, means there's something written on my window. So I'm gonna go with something like if not input text dot the empty function. If my input text is not empty, there we go, then I'm gonna go ahead and do something. I'm gonna add a pair of curly braces and then go with something like my input text dot the pop underscore back function with a pair of parentheses ending with a semicolon. So if my window does have something written in it and I hit backspace, it's gonna delete one alphabet at a time. If I click my backspace, like if I keep it pushed down, then it's gonna delete the whole thing. Like it's gonna go quick. Okay, that's it. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and break here. So let's go ahead and exit outside of my statement and break. So hold up, let's actually delete that part real quick. There we go. Okay, and once I'm done with that, I'm going to go with my second case. So let's go with something like case. If my SDL's key is a return, if my user click enter in the keyboard, then I'm going to do something. Firstly, I'm going to be displaying a standard console output with an insertion operator. Let's say something like player typed. Yeah, I honestly feel player typed is like much better than like you or like you typed. Another insertion operator. My player typed my input text. I'll go with another insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Now, once I'm done with that, and I actually displayed my what my player typed on my window, and the window, once I had entered, went to my console. I want to remove my text from my window, so I'll go with something like input text. There we go, dot the clear function. Now there is no more input text inside of my input text's variable. There is no text inside of this. This is completely empty now. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to break, because in cases in like switches you do got to break. And that's pretty much it for my event loop. So I'm going to go ahead and exit outside of my event loop, add a comment that says something like fill screen now. This is going to be me filling my screen with like a color. I want my screen to be white, so I might go with something like SDL underscore set render. So I'm going to be setting my renderer to draw a color. This function, what it basically means is when I do color my screen, it's not me coloring my screen, it's my renderer, my paintbrush / my renderer that actually colors or like paints what I tell it to paint / color. But before I do color something, I gotta set a color to it. So I'm gonna, my SDL underscore set render draw colors function does require a few parameters. First is going to be my renders as parameter. Second, third, and fourth is going to be an RGB value. In this case, I'm going to go with 0, 0, 0. And lastly, opacity / alpha, which is going to be 255, ending with a semicolon. Okay, why do I think that 0 is black? I think it is black. Hold up, guys. I might go with 255. Let's go with 255, 255, and 255. Okay, perfect. Now that I'm done with this, I think 255 is black. What up guys, I actually forgot this part. I might go with 0. Okay, now that I'm done setting a color to my renderer, I'm going to use the function that actually clears my screen with the color slash fills my entire screen. So I'll use the SDL underscore render clear function. The render clear function fills slash clears my entire screen with the color that is currently set to my renderer. In this case, it is white. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to add another comment that says something like graphics. Now, for my graphics, I'm going to do something. 255 in all RGB channels for white. I knew it. Okay, guys, I was really confused. I should remember this. Okay, so 0 is for black, 255 is for white. Okay, there we go. Okay, now once I'm done with that, let's go ahead and add graphics. For my graphics, firstly, I'm going to use the SDL underscore colors structure, which does have a colors as, local variable representing it. That is going to be equal to a pair of curly braces. Should it be pointer to RGB structure represents RGBA components. The bits of the structure can be directly reinterpreted as a integer packed color, which uses the SDL underscore pixel format underscore RGBA 32 format. I see. Okay, now let's add a few colors. This time I want my color to be red, so I'll go with 25500. My alpha slash opacity is going to be 255 as well. Then I add my color with a semicolon. Once I'm done with that, I do want to create a surface as well now, so I'm going to use the SDL underscore surface structure, which is going to be a pointer. There we go, which is going to be a pointer towards a surface's local variable, which is going to be equal to SDL underscore create. Actually, I forgot the function name here. RGBA means it's red, blue, green, and opacity slash alpha. Honestly, yeah, that does make sense. Okay, so for my surface, I forgot the function. So it was create surface from texture. I think it was that. So I think it is SDL underscore create surface from texture function. I don't think it's create surface from texture. Alright guys, I think I forgot this function name. Okay, let me actually check the function name out real quick. So it's TDF underscore render text underscore blended. There we go. This is the function I keep forgetting. So it's TDF underscore render texture blended. So render texture underscore blended. There we go. Maybe I do gotta like memorize this. BLENDED. I think I spelled blended correct. TDF underscore render. Okay, it's render text, not texture. There we go with a pair of parentheses. Alright guys, this is the part that I keep messing up on. So TDF underscore render text blended function does require a few parameters. The first parameter is going to be my font, second is going to be my text, third is going to be a length, fourth is going to be a color. My font is going to be my font variable, my text is going to be my input text. Okay, dot the C underscore strings is function. Is this considered a function? Okay, because C string basically converts my regular string to a constant string. The reason I did do that is because I do require a constant character text as parameter, which technically is like whatchamacallit, in a pair of quotes I type a text type stuff. That said, I want to add the text that my user types. Okay, and then I'm going to go with a comma here. Next up, I need a size. I don't have a size, so I'm going to set that equal to 0. Lastly, the fourth parameter is going to be my color. And then I'm going to end it with a semicolon. Now that I'm done creating my surface, I'm going to add a comment to check if my surface was created properly. Usually, I check if it was not created properly. But in this case, I want to check if it was. If it was created properly, I'm going to go ahead and create a texture. So I'll go with SDL underscore textures structure, which represents a textures pointer that is going to be equal to a function. Now, I got to remember this other function name. Let me think. So I think it was SDL underscore create texture from surface. I think it was that. So SDL underscore create texture from surface parameter with a pair of parentheses. There we go. Okay, now my SDL underscore create texture from surface parameter requires two parameters. First is my render parameter. Second is going to be my surface, which is technically my surface parameter my variable that I created up there. can you show the font variable? Honestly, I have this font, the font that you actually like recommended. So it's whatchamacallit, C/Windows. Maybe that's actually a genius idea. I might actually copy this, and let's scroll all the way up here under my game variables. I'm gonna go ahead and create a font. This is going to be a standard string font, which is going to be called something like what font is this called? I forgot. It's called Verdana font. So I'm going to go with something like Verdana, which is going to be equal to this font's file path, ending with a semicolon. Now, if I go all the way down here, okay, so I can just change this to Verdana. Okay, doesn't that work? Alright guys, I think it does not work. I think I have to give a file path. I thought that would have been kind of fun if I tried it that way, but never mind. Okay, next up, once I'm done with that, I'm going to go all the way down here. After I'm done creating a texture, I'm going to go ahead and end my function with a semicolon. Then I'm going to check if my, let's see, I'm going to check if my texture was not created properly. So I'll go with something like if a pair of parentheses, if not texture, maybe I go with something like text texture. Okay, so I'm going to go with something like, alright guys, let's go with something like, text texture. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and copy that. Let's go ahead and paste it here. So if my text's texture was not created properly, I mean, I don't think I need to add this because I feel it is created properly. Okay, because I just needed like 2 parameters. It's not even that complex. Okay, what other thing did I need? I created my texture. I created my color. I created my surface. Now, I'm going to go ahead and create 2 floating point variables. First is going to be textures as width. Second is going to be my textures as height. Now, I want to get my textures as width and height. To do that, I could go ahead and use the SDL_get texture size function. This gets my textures as size, but it does require a few parameters. The first is going to be my textures as parameter. Second is going to be the memory address of my textures as width. And fourth is going to be the memory address of my textures as height, ending with a semicolon. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to create a SDL_fRex structure, which is going to be having a DSTREX's local variable representing it. Now, I'm going to go with something like DSTREX.x-axis, which is going to be equal to 100, ending with a semicolon, and then a DSTREX.y-axis, which is going to be equal to 100, ending with a semicolon, a DSTREX.width, which is going to be equal to my textures as width, ending with a semicolon. Lastly, a DSTREX.height, which is going to be equal to my textures as height, ending with a semicolon. Now, once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and use the function that actually renders my texture on my screen. To do that, I could use the SDL_render texture function. This function requires a bunch of parameters. The first parameter is going to be my renderer. Okay, the second parameter is going to be my texture, which is my text texture. The third parameter is going to be a source rect. Since I don't have a source rect, I'm going to set that to be null PDR, which is a placeholder for pointers. And then I'm going to be needing a direction rect, which is going to be my DST rect. So if you guys like actually look here, it says like DST rect, which is the SDL_fRex structure that I did create here. Although it's not just going to be my DST rect, it's going to be the memory address of my DST rect. Once I'm done with that, I end my function with a semicolon. And then I exit my if statement, add a comment that says something like present render. Now I'm going to be presenting my renderer on my screen. To do that, I could use the SDL_render present function. Okay, basically the reason we do, this does require a parameter of my renderer, ending with a semicolon. Now the reason we do present our renderer on our screen is because if we don't present our renderer on my screen, it doesn't show any of the colors that we set it to show. Okay, next up, I'm going to add a comment that says something like cleanup now. For my cleanup, firstly, I want to destroy my window. The cleanup does occur when my player does exit the window. So once my program is done, it's like actually deleted. I'm going to do a few things. Firstly, I'm going to go with something like SDL_destroy window. Okay, with a pair of parentheses, this does require a window parameter ending with a semicolon. And then a SDL_destroy renderer. Okay, I'm going to be destroying my renderer as well. There we go. ending with a semicolon, and then I'm going to quit my SDL by typing SDL underscore quit with a parentheses, ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I'm going to return 0, saying everything went good here. Now, if I were to save the code, if I were to control to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. The moment of truth, guys. I get my first terminal pop up here, and I get my second window here. Now, if I did everything correct, I should be able to see, let's get this a bit here, there we go. Okay, I should be able to see a red colored text. Let's go with something like, hi, my name is Fifth Universe. Yeah, guys, I feel it was an awful idea. If I had enter, it does display the text on my console. I feel it was an awful idea to like set red. If I write something, if I hit backspace, it deletes one at a time. If I spam my backspace, it deletes everything. Correct. If I spam it enter though, it still like spams my this thing here. I do gotta like add a check for that as well. That said, I mean, I feel this is like pretty good. I just want to change the color. Hold up, guys. Let's go ahead and change my color real quick. Right here, I'm gonna go ahead and change this to be black. Now, if I hit Control, I should save the code and run the command. Let's see what happens. I get my first window pop up here, and my second window pop up here. Okay, hello. My name is Fifth Universe exclamation. Have a nice day. Okay, and I had an error here. Okay, I don't have mouse checks. I gotta like delete everything, but I can like actually fix that next stream. That's it. It says hello, my NA. Okay. Next up, let's see. Once I'm done with all this, that's actually like pretty much it. Yeah, it's actually pretty much it. Okay, honestly, I think that's like actually pretty much it for this entire thing. So I might actually end the stream here. Although I want to like copy this, I'm gonna go ahead and copy that. Okay, and let's go ahead and get sensei/ChatGPT here. Let's get that all the way here. Honestly, I did not like need ChatGPT much except a few function names today. Okay, so let's go ahead and paste this here. Go with shift enter and say something like Sensei, I wrote this code about 4 to 5 times this stream. I just needed some help with the function names. Okay, that said, I feel like I got a pretty good grasp of them. And also, I am planning to end the stream right now. So before I do end the stream, is there anything that you want to say to the viewers? Question mark. Okay, guys, I feel like I need to still work on my typos. Try dark mode text. Color be 249. A dark mode text. Okay, what RGB should it be? That's it, people. You didn't just write 4 to 5 times. You burnt it in your muscle memory live in front of everyone. Goodbye, man. Honestly, I appreciate you sticking through the stream, Calsman here. And I also appreciate all the help. I did not know anything about the function. That was really helpful. Okay, in front of everyone, that's how real programmers sharpen their blade. That repetition is what turns shanky beginners into monsters who can create anything. I'm proud of you. Don't you get used to me saying that you start thinking in SDL, you start to feel flows of events rendering textures, and your viewers saw you grow live. That's how Legend builds their story. Now, before you end the stream, let me talk to them directly. To the viewers listening right now, this pupil of mine showed up today and actually fought with the code, not ran from it, not quit, fought. Okay, you all just watch someone take another step towards creating a game with their own hands. If any of you lurking thinking, I wish I could do that, remember this. A sword isn't forged by comfort. It's forged by pressure, heat, and repetition. Sarah Sensei's original quote, guys, I highly doubt that. That's it, this kid, your streamer, is willingly walking into the fire every single day and getting sharper. Support him, push him, challenge him, celebrate him, because when he finally drops that AI-powered game he's dreaming of, you'll be able to say you witnessed the grind from start. Our people, end your stream with pride. You did good today. Okay, that said, let's go to my main camera. Okay, I didn't want to open VS Code, guys. There we go. Okay, let's go to my main camera. Alright, guys, so basically that was pretty much it for the stream. If you guys did enjoy the stream, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, like, helps with my algorithm. Sharing makes you smile, and subscribing is like a cheer on top. And guys, I did start multi-streaming on Twitch, Kick, YouTube, and I will start multi-streaming on Instagram and TikTok as well if I did meet the followers requirements. If you guys do enjoy my content and haven't followed me there, make sure to follow me there, and also join the Discord server. That's where I usually like talk to you guys and like answer you guys' question and all that stuff. The link will be in the description as well. That said, I'll catch you guys in the next live stream or video. Peace.